Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Board of County Commissioners Tuesday, December 17th work session, special meeting. We started today with a special meeting tour of the county jail with the jail administrators and the sheriff. And now we are going to convene as the Board of Social Services to discuss the 2024 third quarter update. And Lindsay and Hamid and Sam and others may be here for this. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Nice to see you guys.
Hi. Hi. All right. We might have some people on virtually too. There's some
Great, okay.
colds
Francie's joining
going
us
around.
remotely. Francie, I
Turns
hope you're feeling better.
Oh, Francie,
Hang in
too.
there.
Yeah. We have.
Oh, you're muted.
I don't think our sound is on.
Oh, is our sound? Hey, uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm running around.
Oh, that's Abby. Oh, Abby's on it. Hold on, Francie. I recommend chicken soup, Francie.
Thank you, Andorra.
And sour cherries.
It's all.
Sour cherries. Oh, that
Early
sounds good.
morning cherry.
So do we need to vote to go into when the time comes, or do
You
we
can
just?
just open
I
the
just
meeting.
open it as the Board of Social Services.
Yeah, I think it's.
There we go.
Okay, we can't hear Francie.
Well, yeah, she was muted or can't hear her.
She can't hear
She's not muted. Francie, you're not muted, but we can't hear you yet.
Okay, good.
Yeah, keep talking and we'll let you know.
Francie, can you hear us?
Give us a nod if you can hear us.
I can hear you.
Ah, we can hear you. Aha,
Okay, good.
something worked. Excellent.
Just us for now. For now. We also probably have some people who might have their hands
Oh,
raised.
yeah, let's see
trying to
who's there
come
and
on
bring them
virtually
in
as
if
well.
they're ready.
Yep, that's one of them.
Worked.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
also, just want to say we're welcoming Jeffrey Woodruff to join us as the commissioner in waiting. He has volunteered his time to come in and hang out with us because he really doesn't have anything else to do, right?
Yeah.
Skiing's not that great, so he's just likes to hang with us.
Lindsay and Sam, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you for coming. This is a good one, just so you know. This is a
This will
good
be a
meeting.
good one.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, take it away.
All right, well, thank you, Board of Social Services. I'm Lindsay Maish, the Director of Human Services, and I'm here with...
I'm Sam Lander-Casper, Deputy Director of Human Services.
we have some folks who are sick today, so it's just us. But before we get started, we wanted to do a special appreciation for Steve Child. So Steve, we got you a gift. And before I give it to you, I'm going to read the card from us to you, because this is your last Board of Social Services meeting. And yeah.
I calculated 4 times 12 years is 48
Is that all?
Board of Social Services meetings.
Just a couple.
Geez, so what's
Just a
that for
few.
me? A lot.
That's a lot. So I'm just going to read the card from our department to you, because you've meant so much to us. So, dear Steve, Human Services is forever grateful for your service to Pitkin County. You've been a pillar of leadership for veteran services and older adults, and have remained in the values we all share together, giving small resort areas, a voice in places like the Colorado Counties Inc., CCI. Thank you for your years of service. Human Services is in a better place today because of you. If there's ever a time you need help, you know where to find us. Thank you so much. Let me give you our gift.
How exciting.
Just so you know, we put a tracker on him. You can find him when he leaves us. Is that what this is?
It's a tracker. There's a tracker in it.
There
a lifetime supply of chocolate milk. Thank you so much.
We're like, come on.
We just want to give you a little piece of human services so you can always represent us wherever you go.
With a great logo.
I
on
love
it.
the logo on that.
It's a great logo.
There's one more gift in there. There's 2 gifts, yeah.
Make sure somebody didn't hydrate it
No,
already.
I'm so
I
excited.
separately wrapped it. Yeah.
This tissue paper will come in very handy for wrapping.
It's
Christmas
good
gifts.
timing.
Grandbaby
Yeah.
presents.
Oh, what's this? A neck gaiter. Is that what it is?
I'm
Thank you
jealous.
so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Your granddaughter can wear that as a skirt.
Yeah, what do you call those? Like
Or you
two
could use it for
skirts?
that. Yeah.
Fit her perfectly.
That's fine. But seriously, thank you so much. We're already starting to feel a void, and we're excited to see what happens with the board as we move into this next iteration. So thank you. All right, Board of Social Services.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, sorry. Were we good?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
I also really appreciate the LEAP representation at the table. I see your cup, Greg Poshman. Yep, it's the perfect time of year
Have
for
an
that.
extra, I'd love one, because mine
Started to fall apart
it went
because you
somewhere.
put it in the dishwasher. We had the same
Is
thing,
that-
yeah. Yes, we do have a few extras, so we can bring those next time. So thank you all for having us today, Board of Social Services. As you know, Colorado is a state-supervised, county-administered human services system. The Colorado Department of Human Services is responsible for all activities by local and district human services departments and all of those allocations and expenditures that are tied to those services. The state does rely on each board of county commissioners to oversee the local social services or human services activities to address specifically, and what's in statute is our economic assistance and child and adult protection and welfare duties, responsibilities, and activities of our department. In Pickens County, human services are primarily performed by us, by the Department of Human Services. However, there are some mandated services that we contract with other entities to provide. Specifically, and we just like to bring these up to remind you all of those things. So specifically, we contract with Garfield County to provide child support services. We were just here a few weeks ago updating that intergovernmental agreement. And long-term care assessment services. Other mandated services provided through contracts or IGAs or intergovernmental agreements include our LEAP eligibility determination, which is provided by the Goodwill Inc. And our child and adult protection hotline services are provided by Prowers County. Yeah, that's that. So today, what we're going to be showing you is the county's 2024 calendar year budget to date. You'll be looking at the third quarter of 2024, so we're always kind of behind one quarter with our allocations and things. And since we follow the state fiscal year from July to June, but we report out on the calendar year, it just can look a little funky sometimes. It actually doesn't look funky this time. So I just want to remind you that our fiscal years are a little bit different than the way that the Pickens County calendar runs. So with that, what I'm going to do is hand it over to our finance analyst, Stuart Fox, who is on virtually, to go through all of our financials.
Welcome, Stuart. Good to see you.
Guys, you guys can hear me okay?
Yep.
My apologies, I would have preferred to be there in person. However, there was a snafu with the bus, so my apologies. I'm going to keep this fairly brief and high level, as I don't think there's too many things I want to really highlight. The first thing I'd like to bring to your attention would be the child welfare. For the third quarter 2024, there has been an increase in both expenditures and revenue, which is an improvement over that same time period for 2023. According to our adult and family services manager, they had indicated that last quarter we started with 2 very complicated child welfare cases and that it continued into the third quarter. And that really explains this increase in both expenditures and revenues. The other item I want to bring to your attention would be childcare. Although when we look at childcare as a percentage for both revenue and expenditures, it's relatively low compared to where we should be through the end of the third quarter, 75% of the calendar year. However, compared to the same time period in 2023, it is a market improvement. We really believe that some of that has to do with that new county rate plan that I believe Lindsay submitted last quarter. And so we're going to continue to see some improvement in that area. And then finally, I'm really proud of it, and I think Lindsay is too. And when we look at total programs for both revenue expenditures on that percentage used, both of them are 72%. I really like that kind of evenness, but it also, I think, demonstrates that our budgeting process is fairly accurate. And so that as a percentage of the calendar year, 75%, 72 is pretty close to that, meaning that we're able to manage to our budget and that our budgeting estimates are fairly accurate. So I kind of want to leave you guys on that right there.
Could I ask a quick question just on that note? Yeah, being at 3/4 of the way, at 3/4 of the year makes sense. I'm just wondering if the final quarter sees any additional expenses that we, because it's winter, because of the season, is there, what's the typical, I'm trying to remember since I've been through, let's see, 8 times 4.
Only 8.
Yeah, it's not that many meetings. Is there something you can point to regarding what are the expectations for the final quarter?
Yeah, I think we're going to be close. From what I'm seeing, I run reports weekly. We're going to be a little less, hopefully, overall in budget. You guys will remember, I think it was last week, I came before you for a budget supplemental for our SNAP. And we're anticipating the utilization of that program is greater than what we budgeted. So that's why I came before you with the supplemental. So I think we should, with that increased budget number, should be accurate. But overall, I think we're going to be at or below budget for both revenues and expenditures.
Great, thanks. Oh, Kelly.
Yes. Can you remind me for the money that remains from the childcare revenue line, does that roll over to other counties that have a wait list if we don't use that?
You mean at the end of the year?
Mm-hmm.
So childcare is one where we can buy dollars with a maintenance of effort. So it is really the responsibility of the county to fill that gap, essentially. So if we have CCAP dollars that we could sell at the end, then we could do that, and we could help some of the other counties. CCAP is going to be one we're going to want to keep a close eye on over the next couple of years. The provider rate plan changes that we're seeing are sending some of the bigger counties right now into more freezes and wait lists because the allocation wasn't addressed in the way that it needed to be able to cover the changes in some of those rate changes. So we're doing some projections right now to look into the future to see how the rate changes are impacting our local. And it looks like for us locally, we're actually going to be able to spend our childcare, our CCAP, which we haven't been able to do historically because of just income limits and what makes you eligible to receive this benefit. So we are going to keep a close eye, but it could have some really big impact to some of the bigger counties in the state.
So just for this year, then you expect to spend the 70%?
We're not going to spend all of that probably by the
What
end
will
of the year.
happen
We'll
to the
see fourth
remainder?
quarter, but I don't think we're going to end up spending all of it. So if there are counties who need that additional cover, then we'll come to the table and consider selling. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Nope, don't see any. Let's keep going.
Okay, so we need to make a motion to approve.
No,
the
at
third
this
quarter.
point,
Yep.
you're ready.
I'll move to
says-
Happy to
approve.
help.
Oh, sorry, Steve, unless you would like to.
I would like to make my last opportunity.
You can make all the motions.
To approve.
Is your mic on?
It's not on.
Okay, start over.
I I will be glad to make a motion to approve the third quarter 2024 expenditures.
And we have a second from
Me.
Kelly. And I'm assuming that blue banner in the upper right was the decision point banner. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's going to be in every
I
slide.
should
actually.
have known that beforehand. It's like-
Approved by-
Okay, further discussion. I don't see any hands up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Payrolls.
Okay, we're actually going to go to, that's okay, 2024
Don't wanna rush it.
expenditures so this narrows into those programs, some of those program questions that you had. So we're going to get a little bit more focused around some of this. And I'll hand it over to Stuart.
Okay. Let's see. I know Norma does these, but I can handle this. Forgive me, I was not prepared for this section, but as you can see, these do tie out to my previous graph or projection and do total up the total program expenditures for third quarter. You will see for admin and economic assistance, we are very stable in that recurring quarter-over-quarter expenditure. We have fluctuations in other areas. TANF, Colorado Works would probably be the most prominent, where we have kind of a whipsaw between quarters. And child welfare, I had indicated earlier, we had those larger two cases. So you'll see third quarter has a large expenditure compared to previous quarters. Yeah, I think this just kind of highlights those items. Any specific questions on any of those programs, I'm more than happy to go into.
Questions, comments? Seeing none. Jeffrey, you can always chime in too. You're welcome to, if you have a question. I don't. So, are you ready for a motion already on this? Boy, we are.
We don't need a motion for this one. This
Oh.
just kind of narrows in, gives you a little bit more specific information about that overall picture. We will go into payrolls if there's no more questions there.
Yeah, and that last chart really just demonstrates kind of the difference between all the money going out the door, that included admin and everything, and then what we're digging into here are the third quarter payrolls. So this is your direct client benefits coming out of the Economic Assistance Department. Norma Avila is the Economic Assistance Manager, but she's not feeling well today, so I jumped back into my old role because, you know, it's easy enough for me. I've been doing it for a while. And there's not really a lot to talk about here. Things are pretty steady. You know, I think the big things to call out here is the Colorado Works. You see that big jump in payment there. A lot of what you're seeing there is what's called a diversion payment. So folks who are eligible for the Colorado Works program, the caseworkers have options to pay what's called a diversion, which is essentially a one-time large payment to help with an emergency. Some of this is also supportive services, which is paid out to folks who are on an ongoing case. And that can be for things such as tuition, clothes for snow clothes for the kids. It's one nice thing about this program is there is a lot of flexibility. We just typically don't have a lot of folks who are able to qualify. But lately, that team's been doing what I feel is a lot more outreach work that's brought some more folks in, and we've had a more regular caseload on the program this year. So that's been nice to see so that we can utilize those dollars. You know, typically we've been using that allocation to help support other programming like Aspen Youth Center to create space for kids, which we're still doing, but this is some more direct client benefits that we're seeing here. I think the other one that really just is worth noting is the LEAP program, which, as we always see in this quarter, is zeros across the board. But I did just pull the numbers for November, which is the first month that it opens back up. So just looking forward, we're going to know, hey, we did actually do a lot of outreach, and we had the most applications and approvals and payouts since 2017. So that outreach work was really helpful, and folks are getting support for that for their heating costs. Food assistance is, you know, been pretty steady across the board. We didn't see as big of a dip after COVID as we thought we would. So our case case rolls actually keep going up a little bit each month, it seems like, and we're kind of steady at around 65 to 70,000 a month in issuance, which pre-COVID was about 40. So we have seen since COVID some more folks have been able to access that program. But yeah, other than that, aid to needy disabled continues to be pretty not underutilized. It's just hard to access. The income limits are very low. The process for submitting the paperwork's quite high. The state at one point was going to help with getting folks who would help with that enrollment. We never really saw that come through. Childcare is looking pretty stable. I think we'll probably see a little uptick in the fourth quarter with those rates increasing. And yeah, but that's generally what I'm seeing there. Does anybody have any questions about any of those programs or how they serve our community?
Steve?
Well, I know we've asked this question before, but in terms of the LEAP program, if someone owns their own place, the best way to spend the money would not be to help pay their energy bill, but to help pay for weatherization, more insulation, that sort of a thing, to just upgrade their residence so their energy bill would be lower. And do you give any assistance for that?
So our programs don't, LEAP itself does not do weatherization. Now our team does connect folks to CORE, who does a lot of that work. And the LEAP program can help pay for a new furnace or something like that that's more efficient. So that's where CORE and LEAP can work together. But LEAP is really just specifically targeted towards those energy costs for folks who are, very low income and really just need to keep their houses heated in the winter. And it's pretty flexible now, so it's not just owning. You can rent and still get LEAP. It can also pay for alternative fuel sources like firewood or propane. And if you aren't paying to a provider like, let's say, the co-op for your gas, they can issue their benefit you're eligible for to a EBT card so that you can then go pay and purchase your propane or firewood or whatever.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of the low-income people, they don't own their own places typically. They're renting a place, so they just pay their bills as they're able to.
Right,
and
exactly.
Just scrape by oftentimes, so this helps them out on that for sure.
Right, and they're not expected to spend it on energy. They're saying your rent is a portion of the energy you're paying, so it's actually a little money back in their pocket if they qualify.
It'd be nice to incentivize them somehow, or the landlords. At least they're getting help from CORE if there's an opportunity to electrify. Put in a heat pump instead of a furnace and help make up the gap in the cost. Would be the right direction to be moving in when we can, but it can't always work that way. And we understand you just need to keep people warm sometimes. But it would be nice to create incentives for electrification.
Yeah, I don't know what the mechanism is, and maybe you all would run into it at CCI or something, because we don't really have a lot to do with LEAP. It's really the state, and we then contract. So I don't know where we have an opportunity to advocate for changes like that.
Is there a sharing of information? Are the clients confidential? Or can they waive their right to confidentiality? I just wonder if that could be information that CORE can then use. They've been very proactive with working with APSHA and doing outreach to multifamily. I just wonder if there's a similar way that they could do that with beneficiaries.
Yeah, we'd probably have to look at the contract between the state and Goodwill, since they house that. Now our team, at least when and typically most of the applications that are coming in through our office, our outreach specialist will work with them and then have that conversation about, is CORE a potential option? But I don't know who we could talk to about whether we could share those roles and get those folks connected.
Patty?
And what about the COG weatherization program? I mean, we're members of COG, and they have a huge weatherization program.
Yeah,
I haven't worked with them.
thinking if we could get CCI and COG together, right, I think there could be some really good overlap around some of the programs that we're offering. I think there is it's a felt sort of silo or disconnect between some of these programs that are happening. Like child care is a good example where we have UPK happening in one office and CCAP in another. And like trying to figure out how we can all work together on some of those things has been tough, but they're certainly making some progress on it.
Well, let's touch base at some point. Put that on your tickler file, and we'll get you in touch with the powers that be at COG.
Yeah, perfect.
What we can do. Thank you.
It'd be great to innovate, some sort of synergies between these, and maybe we could demonstrate how it could work.
Yeah.
For those who qualify for this program and don't qualify for that, vice versa.
Right. Okay, thank you for the conversation on that. Okay,
Any other questions?
are we ready for, does anyone want to make a motion?
Steve?
I'd be honored to make my final motion for the Board of Social Services.
There's one more you can motion to adjourn. We'll let you do that.
So I move to approve the 2024 third quarter payrolls.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Lindsay and Sam. Thanks for coming in. Nice to meet you, Hamid. And
Great
what else we got?
great
What else you got
resume.
for us?
We're not leaving yet, Greg.
I'm still here. I knew you had more pages coming. Trying to tee you up.
So before we dive into this is the meeting where we usually talk about coalition updates and some of the other initiatives that we're working on. But we have a lot of new staff in human services, so we wanted to take a moment just so you could see their faces, introduce them. I do have Hamid here, so I want him to actually come up here.
Have a seat right there. That'd be great.
Yeah, come on, have a seat.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Nice
So-
shirt. by the
Thank
way.
you.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, so we have Cameron Staten, who I think I said that right, Staten, who is the new chef at the senior center, and we have gotten some very good feedback on some of the innovation and meals that he's bringing there. I have eaten there now maybe 5 times since he's started, and it's the eggplant parmesan was amazing yesterday. So recommend you all get over there and have a meal. We have Hamid Ran, and I'm going to let Hamid introduce himself and just tell a little bit about himself. This is a new position that was repurposed, and he's now our management analyst doing some very high-level leadership stuff with us and helping us lead some of the efforts. But he has an amazing backstory, and I just wanted to give him the opportunity to introduce himself that way.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I make it short because it is really long. So, in back home, I was a journalist. I'm from Iran originally. So, after I found out that my life is in danger and the government doesn't like the articles that I'm writing, so I escaped the country in 2008. I went to Turkey. I was in Turkey for 18 months to process my refugee status. And after 18 months, United States accepted my status and I came here. When people ask me, where are you from? I say originally Iran, but in United States from Maryland because my social security is coming from there. And the city that I've grown up in back home, it is exactly like Boulder, surrounded by mountains, heavy snows right here, and really, that cold in winter. And because of that, I have a huge dream. When the Iranian regime changes, I make sure that Boulder and my city become city sisters. It is my dream that I hope that I be alive until the Iranian regime changes. So it was why I came to the United States in 2010. I didn't know English at all. I started working for an Iranian TV in Washington, D.C., but after 3 months, the owner decided to shut down. I couldn't find a job because I didn't know English, so I moved to Dallas, Texas. I went to college over there, started learning English, built my career, And when I arrived to Dallas, I took the bus from DC to Dallas. So it was 2 nights, 3 days. And when I got over there, I said, one day I'm going to move to Boulder. And my friend, and the reason that I knew Boulder, because back home, when I was younger, I was professional mountain climber and rock climber. So I knew that American climbers come to Colorado to practice for high mountains like Everest. So because of that, I knew in 2016, I find a job with Whole Foods, moved to Boulder, actually lived over there 18 months. Then I find a job with International Rescue Committee, which is a refugee resettlement agency. I resettled by them myself, and so I found a job with them as caseworker supervisors, worked over there, then Jefferson County as eligibility specialist, and then supervisor eligibility specialist. Then I was so lucky that about 2 months ago, I came to Pitkin County, and I feel so lucky. I'm working with such an amazing team. Really, I haven't seen, I told John the other day on my new higher orientation, I haven't seen any support like this from employers that we have in Pitkin County. Every single day, I'm so proud of joining to this amazing team. And I'm so thankful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, great, thank
So
you for
nice
that.
to meet you.
Interesting,
Yeah.
so you're a mountaineer.
Thanks.
Okay, well, we have
So
a
if we-
mountaineering community here. Hopefully you'll get to know some of them.
So if we hear a little Texas twang in his.
That's what that is.
What, so you
Very
left in
cool.
2010?
Thank you.
Is that when you left?
In 2008, I left. I went to Turkey,
Okay.
and then 2010 I came to United
Got it,
States.
okay.
Well,
Wow.
welcome.
Thank you.
What a journey.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
well, welcome. Okay, that's
We're-
great.
Yeah, we just feel so lucky. This team, I mean, all of these new people that are coming into human services, we have recruited some very amazing talent. So we're excited to see kind of where this takes us. The next person, you can see the picture. So Cameron's up there, top left.
Before you move on, can I just quickly say
Yeah,
something?
sorry, Francie.
Go ahead, Francie.
Go ahead.
That was a fantastic story. Thank you so much for sharing your story and also your comments about Pitkin as an employer. It was really great to hear. So welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Francie. Yeah, I think we're kind of humbled by Hamid's story every day. In most meetings, the perspective and the lens that he's bringing to this work is so important and critical and something that I'm not sure we've had. So we feel really lucky. So Cameron in the top left over there, Hamid, you know Hamid, he's here and he's there. Jose Saez is bottom left, and he's a new eligibility specialist working with economic assistance. He has also been part of the fabric of our community in many ways. He's worked for Detox, he worked for West Mountain Regional Health Alliance, and he's now working with us. We, again, so lucky. Nick Smith is a lifetime local of the Valley, has lived all around the world and come back, and is now a program analyst for us. And Chel Pedregosa is also part of the fabric of this community in so many ways. Yep. She used to work for Response at the Domestic Violence Center, and now she is a child welfare caseworker, bringing that lens and expertise around domestic violence, which right now we really, really need. So we're so thankful. This team is really amazing, and we're just so excited to be working in this way.
Well, great.
So welcome.
And thank you for introducing everyone.
All right, so we're going to quickly go through a couple of program updates for you, and after that, then I'm going to hand it over. So the first thing is that we have some additional money coming through some of our allocations, and I wanted to bring these to your attention today. So Hunger Free Colorado is basically, it's a nonprofit that connects people to food resources. It drives policy, systems, social change. The program for us, we began doing this work in I feel like it was before 2023, Hunger Free, but maybe it was just started in 2023 for us. Yeah, the Hunger Free We've been doing that for a while.
Hunger Free is outreach, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we've been doing
Yeah.
that for 7 years, I think now.
Yeah. So thank you. Oh yeah, so much before 2023. We're seeing a change in this contract. It's an extension every year. We're seeing this go down quite a bit, and it's based on some changes and nuances that have happened in our Peak Pro system and the way that information gets in for our that essentially is tracking our SNAP benefits and other food resources. So we're going to see a decrease, but we're working together with Hunger Free to make sure that all of the things that that, as you can see, our SNAP is going up, which should indicate for us some more resource around that, but we're not seeing that. So we're trying to kind of get to the bottom of what's going on there. So wanted to give a update on Hunger Free. LEAP, there's an outreach incentive. That's the way that you have that nice mug there. We do a lot of outreach events. This also comes through our standard sort of allocation. It's an additional, I think, $20,000 for us to do a big push around outreach for LEAP. So that is another contract that we're going to be working on moving forward, and just wanted to give you all the update on that. Any questions about that before I hand it over to nutrition?
Patty.
Yep.
I think there are serious concerns looming with the SNAP program from what I've been hearing coming down from the national level. So if we don't hear, maybe you hear first, let us know. I'm not sure how we can contact our federal delegation up through Colorado and say, hey, these are important programs, and it's not a partisan issue, it's a people issue.
Yeah.
So how can we try and keep this funding flowing? So.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually not just SNAP. It's happening in some other places
SNAP
as well.
was
Yeah.
one of the ones that just recently, I think, was really pointed out, and listening to some federal legislators from across the country speaking on it, what's happening in their own states. So.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, so there's been a strong movement by the Republicans to try to separate the food assistance programs from the Farm Bill. And I don't know, maybe they have enough votes now to do that, but it would be devastating for these food assistance programs that are in the Farm Bill.
And all the work that's gone into that too. Yeah. Yes.
But there's one positive thing I think that hopefully will be discussed, and that is the ability to use these funds, food stamp funds, for products that are healthy rather than the junk food syndrome. And I think that's something worth looking at and supporting if we can help get a compromise that we have monies to fund it. So I think that's another angle to be looking at.
Our Q4 Board of Social Services meeting we just had extended, and we're going to be doing a pretty big legislative update for you all. So we're going to be tracking, and we'll bring Levi to that meeting as well to see what's happening in the state and to keep you all connected to that.
Great. Wonderful.
Any other questions?
I don't see any. We're looking good.
All right, so I'm going to hand it over now to Chad Butterwitz to do a nutrition. Yeah, thank you. To do a quick nutrition update.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome, Chad.
Hello, Chad Fedowitz. I'm the manager of senior services. For nutrition, have been pretty steady. Our numbers continue to go up based off of probably multiple different factors. There's really great food being the number one factor. We're still projecting to reach 10,000 meals or probably slightly more, which was kind of our goal from our previous chef to our current chef. Also in the memo, I put just some updated demographic numbers, which I don't put too much weight into, but I like to look at them occasionally. The most current estimates is that 28% of the county's population is over 60, which is slightly higher than I actually thought it was last time I looked at really crunched numbers and looked at different data sets. And that is to remain pretty steady for the next 10 years. And then a second graph, or the demographic graph I put in the memo, sees the largest increase among the oldest old, is how we classify these individuals.
Can you put those charts up? Are they on your
I don't have
I don't
that
think they're in
in
okay.
here.
No worries.
chart? And that's looking at 75 to 84-year-olds and then people 85 plus. And I did some digging a few weeks ago with an intern of mine, and all the Central Mountains, especially in the 85 plus population, sees increases up to almost 300% of the oldest old. I point these numbers out because that's really stripping it down to the basic needs and necessity for senior services, and even some of the work of preventive services of adult and family services around adult protection or prevention services. That really is the core demographic that our services are pointing toward. Are those old as old individuals in the community. They tend to be lower income, they tend to live alone, they tend to be women, et cetera, et cetera. So looking at and just keeping an eye on those particular demographic numbers, let alone all older adults, is just something that I think we in Human Services, and more specifically Senior Services, keeps an eye on. I watch it pretty closely, looking for new estimates and data, looking at census data and even voter registration as well, just to see what that population number is, and if there is or is not any correlation to the utilization of our services. It's really somewhat challenging to make a direct correlation. But our numbers keep going up. If it's great food or because people need us, yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. And so just wanted to point that out as you all, especially getting into session with the constraints of the state budget, et cetera, have conversations at CCI or otherwise around advocating for older adults, as I know you all do. And Steve has been a champion for that for many, many years. So I just wanted to bring you all that to your attention.
Great, thank you. That's interesting. We kind of see it, but it's nice to see the numbers. Comments, questions, thoughts? Okay,
Thanks for the demographic data.
yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Fedorowicz.
Yes.
that's right. Thanks, Doc.
That's right.
And for those of you who have not been to this lunch at the senior center, I highly recommend. Cameron is doing, he had big shoes to fill, and he, I think, has bigger shoes on perhaps.
Yeah, he's really a top shelf, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got some real chops.
We have recruited some very amazing talent.
Yeah.
We really
Great.
have
Yeah.
in Human Services. We're so lucky. He was the head chef of Izakaya, and I think he went to La Cordon Bleu. Like his
I know.
his
He's got,
background
yeah,
is
I
also
read that.
amazing.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to come check it out.
Yeah. Please
They'll
do.
let us
Open a
in.
restaurant
Yeah.
at the senior
You know, if you
center.
wash dishes, they'll feed you.
Oh, see, there you go.
They always need
Thank you
dishwashers.
for that plug, Kelly.
And I think it's really fun.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, then.
So the next part of our presentation, we did extend our presentation a little bit today because we wanted to give you all an update on what's happening with the homeless services, or the homelessness strategic planning, and as well as the behavioral health strategic planning. So I'm going to start, and I believe Ashley Pearl is on there somewhere. She said she'd be lingering, so.
Yes.
Yep, nope, that's okay. I'll do my best. Also, another person who's not feeling well today. We have quite a few.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's
holidays.
going around,
Yes.
so take your vitamins. Thank you.
Yes, it looks like she's there.
I'm going to do just a little bit of level setting before I hand it over to the two SHG advisors, just to tell you kind of how we've gotten to where we are today, and the approach moving forward, and then I'll hand it over to them. So, as you all probably remember, about it was right when I started, so 6 or 7 years ago, I worked with Nan Sundin to start the Pickens County Housing Stability Coalition. This brought together, really the listserv has over 100 people, people with lived experience, people with, we had elected officials coming to this meeting. We have providers. The stakeholders in this group was very diverse and a really passionate group. And the focus in the strategic planning at that time was really on ending chronic and veteran homelessness in Pickens County. We subscribed to the Built for Zero efforts at the state and got on board and started doing some of that stuff before COVID hit. And then in 2020, COVID happened. And that was an interesting time for homelessness in Pitkin County because it opened the door for us to some pretty big grants that allowed us to start doing some of this work in a different way, essentially gathering data. We had kind of some point in time data, had a very loose understanding of what the problem actually was locally. And now we're able to, because of the data infrastructure and the services, the street outreach and case management work that's been put into this through these grants, we've been able to really start to create a system of care that's different from when it was the Aspen Homeless Shelter. And that was really kind of the hub or spot for homeless services. So it's grown. There's been a lot of changes in this system as well. So we have kind of a sense of what's happening for those people in Pitkin County that are homeless. But what we don't have a sense of is the kind of like broader, we have the chronic and veteran homeless. That was our focus. We don't have the broader understanding of what's happening with like overcrowded homes, right? Or with people who are couch surfing, which would technically be meeting criteria to be homeless. People living in their cars and RVs. We always talked about wanting to do a point in time count in our shoulder season when people were laid off from the big employers and then started their summer work. Like, it would be so interesting to understand that landscape. So there's a lot we still don't know about this. So what we've done is we came to you last year, I think, to approve the use of some of the stimulus funding towards hiring and bringing on some subject matter experts. I think that the other thing that happened was that our expertise as a organization, Pitkin County, we only had so much expertise as well. We needed that next step or that next level of assistance to help us understand what the expanded knowledge is. And we're here to help, but we're not subject matter experts when it comes to homeless services. So the approach for us and the way that we look to move forward with our current consultants is to really look at the current needs that are happening right now. We have some already short-term solutions that are in place, and we've patched them together through grants and some of the different things. We haven't had a moment to look at the broad system. So we're going to be looking at long-term solutions that not only include programs and services, but also look at capital and infrastructure needs as well for us locally to be able to end homelessness and to have a really clear and fluid sort of system of care that if anybody is about or couch surfing or somebody loses their housing, that they kind of swiftly come into the system of care, and there are solutions right there. So that is kind of the big goal. And so with that, what I will do is introduce our consultants. They're sitting here in the room. We're going to bring them up to the room. Come on up here. Oh, it's Summer. Right. For this one.
Can I ask, I'm looked everywhere, SHG, State Housing, I'm trying to figure what the acronym. Thank you.
Strategic High Impact Guidance.
Oh, well, I was close.
It also happens to be the initials for my name, so that's really the reason behind it.
Thank you for coming. Is your mic turned on? Is that mic on? Just one red light?
Red light on.
It was,
I can hear her.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great.
And
So I'm going
Ashley's
to hand
joining
it
us, too.
over to Summer, and I'll drive here for you
Okay.
while you're going
Great.
through. Yeah. So go ahead and
you.
introduce yourself.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Very excited to be here, so thank you for having us. As Lindsay said, I'm Summer Gathercole. I'm the Managing Director of SHG Advisors. Just to share a little bit of my background, I moved to Colorado in 2012. I was the State Director for Cooking Matters, which is a nutrition education program that used to be, we used to have a site in Carbondale, so you might have heard of it. And then in 2014, I decided to open my own consulting practice. I had done that previously in a different state and really missed the variety and the challenge of consulting. I was really fortunate that my first contract was with the Denver Foundation to actually look at increasing access to healthcare across the state. Even though it was the Denver Foundation, it was still across the state, and we focused on behavioral health. So that was kind of a foray for me into behavioral health care, which you'll hear about here in a few minutes. But ran a successful practice for 5 years. when Governor Polis stepped in to office in 2019, I was invited to run his behavioral health task force. So ran that, which was supposed to be for a 17-month gig, and then that turned into 4.5 years. We submitted our recommendations to Governor Polis. I was asked to stay on to help with implementation, and then served as the first deputy commissioner of the new Behavioral Health Administration. Decided a little over a year ago to go back to consulting. After 17 months turned into 4.5 years, I was ready to step away, and really decided to focus on behavioral health and housing and homelessness as some of the two big priority areas for our firm. And also was really excited to be able to focus more on distinct communities and distinct pieces of work, if you will. I think the work at the state was very rewarding, large systems change, but it's also slow moving and lots of hurdles to overcome. So I really appreciate the opportunity to work with Pitkin County. So as Lindsay said, I'm going to talk a little bit about the housing work. One thing that I wanted to share is just our team. So I'm going to have my colleague Yumiko introduce herself when we start talking about behavioral health. But I wanted to share a little bit about our other colleagues that are involved in this work. The first person being Jen Lopez, who has actually done some work with Pitkin County before in housing. She, though, has more than 24 years of developing housing opportunities. She's overseen 1,500 units that have been built. She developed Colorado's Permanent Supportive Housing Initiative, which resulted in 4,000 units. So she's really kind of our PSH guru, if you will, when it comes to really understanding the finances behind what's going to be involved with permanent supportive housing. We also have Dan Tregula. He is a associate professor at University of Pennsylvania. He has 17 years of experience in housing and homelessness prior to going into academia. And part of that was with New York City, so really understanding kind of homelessness at some of the urban level, but in his new role, not only does he get to geek out in data a lot, which we've really appreciated, he has a national landscape. So he's really mindful of what other communities are doing across the U.S. to address homelessness there. And then finally, Cassie Westmoreland, who has 10 years of experience in homelessness and housing services. She was at the State of Colorado Office of Homeless Initiatives for over 5 years, and just is a plethora of knowledge, in terms of housing and what's going on at the state level. And she's run shelters before, so she also has that very on-the-ground experience as well. So that's just a little bit about our team. Thanks for indulging me. So just to talk a little bit about the work here in Pitkin County, Lindsay talked a little bit about we know that there's some chronic homelessness. There's some familiar faces that we see on a regular basis for people who are unhoused. But there's also a lot that we don't know. As Lindsay said, there are people who are sleeping in cars. They are couch surfing, living in overcrowded units. I'll just share an experience where I just wrapped up some work with Summit County on some transitional housing work there. We did a tally count, which is like more of an informal point-in-time count, if you will. And we thought we had about 30 to 40 people who were homeless in Summit County. Our number came back at 137, and we know we didn't get everyone. There are still folks that we missed, and so it was much, much higher than anticipated. And I will tell you that having spent a day and a half walking around parking lots, I personally was surprised at how many people were living in their cars. It was really remarkable and sad for sure. So I think part of our work here in Pitkin County is to say, how many people are we talking about, and what are their needs? And so some of our work is going to be conducting some surveys with people who are experiencing homelessness to really understand a little bit about the circumstances to how they got there, but also what supports they need going forward to be successful, in addition to housing. So in terms of some of our approach, we are engaging the community quite a bit, having lots of community meetings, sharing what's happening, and with the goal being to end homelessness in Pitkin County. I want to just point out here on the Aspen Daily News, what you can see is there on the right, the road to ending homelessness, how the community worked together. And I think this is something I would want to stress a lot, because we are starting to try to talk to communities where it has been a community effort to address homelessness, that it hasn't just fallen on the local government or jurisdiction, that there's different partners that have come together that have owned different pieces of the work, and that has made pretty significant difference in terms of their ability to be successful in addressing homelessness in their communities. So there's definitely this community-wide approach that we're taking to be really thoughtful about how we address this in Pitkin County. To give just an overview of the work, so environmental scans, so we did start our work in September. We have met probably with over 25 partners at this point in time to hear from them kind of about their work, what their observations are. I mentioned that we are going to be doing a survey with people who are experiencing homelessness. We're also going to be sending out a survey to those community-based organizations, to the program staff. So we've talked to a lot of the leadership at those organizations, but we also want to talk and hear from the program staff about what their observations are, and see if there's things that we're not hearing that still need to be addressed. And of course, we've also been looking at data, whatever housing data is available. We are digging into that too. The research and analysis phase is really where, again, we'll be talking to other communities to learn from them and some of those best practices. We want to start to think about, are there things at Pitkin County that are happening in Pitkin County that maybe aren't the best use of resources, and could we divert resources in a different way to really address homelessness in a more impactful way? So those are some of the things we'll be thinking about in the research and analysis. And then looking at the current services that are available, mapping them across the housing continuum, identifying where the gaps are, and that's when we'll start kind of prioritizing the opportunities, talking with the county and partners to say, here's where the gaps are. Let's talk about how we want to prioritize what we want to address first with different opportunities going forward. And develop some potential solutions. And then the last piece is really around kind of building out those business plans and budgets, so that when you have an opportunity to address homelessness in Pitkin County, you have all the information that you're going to need. So you'll have the resources that you're going to need, the capital infrastructure costs, you'll know the services that need to be available, depending on what it looks like. So, but essentially you'll have all of that data available at your fingertips so that you can take advantage of those opportunities as they come up and are available. The last piece here I just wanted to share is just a couple of key components for success around this project. One is we have, are in the process of creating an advisory council on homelessness. So this is people with lived experience, probably for the most part people who have experienced homelessness in their past, and can help us as we're talking about potential solutions, help us figure out what's realistic. Is this really going to result in what we were looking for? Because I think a lot of times, and I am very guilty of it myself, coming up with ideas and saying, yes, let's go do this. This is going to be really helpful to the community. And then we go, implement it, and turns out we missed the mark, right? So part of what we want to do here is make sure that we're engaging people who have experienced homelessness to be able to ask them, is this solution really going to work? Is it going to meet or reach the outcome that we're trying to achieve? So that's one piece of the work. The other piece of the work is around creating community champions. So we know that there are a lot of opinions about homelessness in the community. We know that there are people who feel very strongly in different ways. There's also lots of rumors that start, questions that come up. So we are really recruiting business and civic leaders from across Pitkin County to serve as our community champions, to be the folks who are out there publicly promoting this work in a really positive way. Also hearing what questions are being asked, letting us know if there's rumors that are coming up that we need to squelch early on, really just kind of being our eyes and ears on the ground, if you will. And then the last piece of this kind of piece for success is around hiring. What we started out saying is that we wanted to hire someone local to Pitkin County who was very familiar with the county, who could help us identify where people who are experiencing homelessness are, so that we can reach them via that survey and really hear from them what supports they need. We recruited earlier this fall. We ended up with two amazing candidates, and we couldn't figure out which one. So we actually are going with both of them, and we're splitting up the work a little bit. It's really exciting. They have verbally accepted offers, so I'm going to share, but I'm just going to say, like, we don't have a written contract yet, but verbally accepted Jose Suarez, who Lindsay mentioned earlier, who's a new hire over at Human Services, and then Gabe Cohen, who runs Discovery Cafe in Pitkin County, and then a little bit in Garfield County as well. Both of them just outstanding. I think they will be such a huge just benefit to moving this work forward and really, like I said, being our eyes and ears on the ground to help us understand what people who are experiencing homelessness really need, and so we can develop the right solutions. So I think with that, we're going to move to behavioral health.
That's interesting.
Can I, real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, I need a business card. Northwest Colorado Council of Governments is looking at readapting or reorganizing our monthly meetings on topics. And this might be something to have you maybe be a presenter at the COG region. It's a 6-county region. I think that might be great. So I can always get your contact information through staff, but I think that would be, am I already there? Okay.
I will get you that, no
Yeah,
worries.
that would be great to see if it might be a topic of interest and maybe have you do it sometime over the year.
Sure.
That'd be great,
Yeah, happy
thanks.
to.
Thank you for that.
Yes, I'm so interested.
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, she's not going anywhere. Okay,
Don't go anywhere.
sticking around. Good.
Yes.
Hi, Jordana.
Hi.
Hi. I'm like, what did I do? She's getting up from her chair.
Just so eager. Pitkin County Public Health Director, here to introduce the Behavioral Health Strategic Planning Initiative that SHG was also independently selected for through an RFP process. So how do we get to where we are right now? Many of you will remember that for the past 7 years, so back in 2017, a number of funders in Pitkin County came together to collectively fund gaps in the mental health and substance use continuum of care. This work has been guided by strategic planning all along the way, so this will be our third iteration of a strategic planning process. Most recently, the round of services funds school-based clinicians, integrated behavioral health care, and case managers. It requires the funded agencies to provide data on the usage and the services and the outcomes that they're providing, and also provides funding for staff to run the mental health access program, which coordinates services for individuals with the greatest behavioral health need. So why strategic planning? We know that there is a changing landscape right now in the behavioral health world. The development of the Behavioral Health Administration at the state is one of the many variables in this changing landscape, along with, we always know there are always new and local initiatives and efforts popping up. So the strategic planning effort is going to help us really be able to identify and then prioritize the strategies that we want to be able to work on and fund together, where that funding is going to come from, and then also leadership and governance. How are we going to be leading this work? How are we going to be organized? Who is responsible for what moving forward? So to tell us more about this, I will turn it over to Summer and Yumiko.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Do I turn this on?
I think.
Yeah, red is on. Yes, you should be. Oh, yeah. You
It's
got
ba-
it.
yeah.
Thanks.
Red means go.
Oh, got it. My name is Yumiko Doherty. I'm excited to be working on the behavioral health project with Summer and Jordana and team. Just a little bit about my background before we talk about our approach to this work. I actually met Summer. We were both at the Department of Human Services at the state level. She was leading behavioral health reform. I was leading child welfare reform. And so we connected that way. So I started my state experience in child welfare and then also working on homelessness. I also spent some time with CHSDA, the Colorado Human Services Directors Association, which is closely connected with CCI. So got to know very well kind of the county perspective on lots of issues, understanding all the unique needs and nuances across our state.
What I really learned from working in child welfare and homelessness is underneath both of those issues, really the core issue that was impacting, right, our ability to make progress was access to services. There was just so much unmet need from prevention all the way through treatment and access to behavioral health. So when Colorado was standing up its BHA, Behavioral Health Administration, I moved over there to work on behavioral health with Summer and others. I was their first director of strategic planning and engagement. So those are the two things I love. Looking at the big picture, how do we connect the dots in terms of strategy, but also engagement, right? How do we do that in a way that's in partnership and in collaboration? I authored the BHA's first strategic plan, which is not a good example of a strategic plan and not what we're hoping to replicate here, because when we started that, almost everything we had to do was dictated in legislation. And talk about kind of realistic timelines for system change. I think almost everything was in the first 2 years of creating all these new systems changes in addition to standing up a brand new agency. And there was very little opportunity for actual engagement during that process. So we're hoping to do things a little bit differently with the strategic planning process. But I think one of the big things, which we'll keep highlighting, both Summer and I, since becoming consultants, have both loved working more at the localized, regional, and county levels because you can be more nimble and bring about change quicker. But I think particularly in behavioral health, having a deep understanding of what is happening at the state level and the regional level and how it is going to impact the county level, what to expect, what not to expect, is going to be very important in terms of where you determine to put resources, where you put your time and attention, et cetera. So we are excited to kind of bring some of that experience and our relationships at the state level to this work as well.
Great.
Thank you. So starting with a little bit, Jordana kind of gave some background around why now. But just a little bit of the data. When we walked in to this project, we were pretty blown away at the amount of information and data that has been collected in Pitkin County over the years. The number of reports and plans and data, it's pretty outstanding. So we already know a lot, right? There wasn't too much more we had to do in terms of gathering information to really understand what some of the big gaps and issues are. And here's just some examples, right? In the upper left-hand corner, you see just a broad trend that people in Health Statistics Region 12, so all the data's captured in lots of different ways, but Health Statistics Region 12 is Pitkin, but also Eagle, Summit, Garfield, and Grand County. So this is more regional. But we know that poor mental health, reports of poor mental health has been increasing over the last 10 years, as well as people who say they needed mental health services but weren't able to access them. So that's really what that first graph is showing, is both of those have been increasing over time. And really what we're interested in is understanding, right, some of those gaps. Why? What are the needs? And why are people unable to access the services they need when they need them? In the bottom right-hand corner, of course, another bigger issue is Pitkin County is a designated health professional shortage area, which is simply a way to map out and use lots of different data to understand kind of what the unmet behavioral health needs are. You can see Pitkin County there is mostly yellow, which is kind of showing the higher level of need, higher levels of shortage in terms of people being able to access the care they need. In the bottom left, we've already heard many times the cost of care, right? Not only for people who are uninsured, but there's a large portion of people who are underinsured, even people with insurance unable to access the care they need. And you can see there in the graph in the bottom left, right? It is real. The costs of care in Pitkin County are, when you compare statewide and even with more rural counties, the cost of behavioral health care is higher in Pitkin County. And then finally, we're also very interested in looking at priority populations. So not just the bigger picture trends of what's happening, but really delving deeper into understanding how these trends are impacting more specific populations. And so the example we have here is looking at youth in the region who are reporting poor mental health over the last 30 days, comparing cisgender students with transgender students. And that's just an example of a priority population that we know from lots of data and research both have lower access to care, they tend to be more likely to be more uninsured, and they have much higher needs in terms of behavioral health.
Could you drill down a little bit? I'm just looking at the map and trying to understand the map in the lower right with the legend on it, and then just the areas in Pitkin. I'm trying to think, okay, I know exactly where those areas are, but it doesn't make sense to me. Is there any more information you can give us on
I
that?
think that is part of our work, is we're going to have to dig and understand it. This is kind of a national picture. Actually, no, I think this is from CDPHE. Yeah. Using, I think the designation is national, right? And so CDPHE uses a whole slew of indicators around need, around availability of services and providers, et cetera, to come up with these maps. So I think really our job is to translate this right into realities and what are the implications and what are potential solutions.
Take it with a large grain of salt in this case.
For sure. Yeah. I think we have heard just, as one of the big themes coming in terms of there are definitely pieces of the continuum of care where there is a lack of or definite shortage of care. So yes, that is one of the key pieces, is to kind of understand where, right, in the continuum that's happening and for whom.
Got it. Great. Thank you for that.
And so our approach, walking in, again, Pitkin County is a county where there is already a lot happening. We actually just came from our partner kickoff meeting. How many people do you think were there total?
In person and on the Zoom, probably 50.
50 or so people just to our kickoff meeting, right? From all different walks. We had a really great, engaged, diverse group. So there is no doubt there is a lot happening. And all the examples we heard in that room of, oh, we're starting up a workforce pipeline initiative over here, or here the school-based centers are doing these types of things, family resource centers. So much happening in Pitkin County, especially over the last several years. And then, as we mentioned, if you click over Jordana, there's also a ton of data, plans, initiatives, right? PACT, MHAP, the Mental Health Fund. There is a lot happening. And so what is our value add here in terms of a strategic plan? It's not necessarily to say, oh, we need to do lots of data collection and figure out where the gaps are. By and large, those are known, right? We already know a lot, and there are a lot of initiatives happening. Our value add is really what you see here. It's about connecting the dots between all of this work. It's about having all of the different community partners come together under a shared vision to prioritize what are our strategic priorities, right? There is a lot that could be done, but where do we want to focus, or where do you want to focus as a community over the next few years, and how do we sequence that? And then the other two pieces I think are really unique to this, believe it or not, to say that we want to focus on not only the what of what are the strategies and what are the initiatives we want to take on, but how are we going to do that? How are we actually going to execute on that? And so I think it was really wonderful that Jordana and others in the initial proposal put an emphasis on understanding the governance or the leadership structure surrounding any strategic plan that comes out, right? What is the role of the county in implementing a behavioral health plan, right? How do we ensure that we understand who is taking on which pieces, what are the roles and responsibilities, and the oversight of something like that? I think in our experience at the state level, time and time again, we've worked on these big plans, right, that are system level plans, but who owns that? Where is the accountability? How do people understand what it is they're supposed to go and do? So focusing on really recommending and implementing a governance structure around the plan, and then also looking at funding. Pitkin's very lucky to have active, engaged funders in this area, but how do we again coordinate across funders? How do we look at what's happening again at the state level, at the federal level, to understand what the gaps are and the opportunities from a funding perspective? So we really see that's kind of our value add, right? Coming in, not in any way starting from scratch, but really trying to bring together in a strategic way all that already exists here in Pitkin County. Really quickly, in terms of our timeline and some of the big tasks, over the last couple months, we've really dug deep into the data, attempted to organize it in a way that we can really make meaning out of that data. We're going to be really engaging folks through interviews and focus groups to really understand some of the nuances behind that data, just like you were asking, right? Okay, here's a nice looking map, but what does it mean? How does that translate into day-to-day life? What does that look like for providers and for the people in Pitkin County? So really understanding kind of the nuances here. And then, as we mentioned, focusing in on kind of funding and the governance structure pieces, which will all factor into a completed strategic plan by summer. By summer and
season, yes.
Yeah, okay.
At first I was like, wait, I'm not doing it all on my own.
So just to kind of reiterate some of the critical components we think to a successful process here, as Summer and I mentioned, right, bringing a kind of broader lens and a broader context to this process. As we said, there is so much happening right now in the state in terms of reforms. And even if we don't feel them or see them yet, they are happening. And again, kind of how is that going to impact Pitkin County? How do we need to adjust strategies based on the broader system and how it's evolving over time? And as we heard a little bit today, ensuring that people in the county understand how to connect into those broader reforms that are happening. We heard one person say, I don't know how to keep track of what's happening at the state. And so providing some of that knowledge sharing. Similar to the housing work, we are really committed to engaging not only providers and partners and organizations and folks who are involved in behavioral health work, but also people with lived experience, right? What do they really need? What's missing? What do they hope to see as well? Leveraging and managing relationships. Okay, with 50 people showing up to that first meeting, and we had a whole list of people who they identified that were not there yet, managing those different relationships, competing priorities is going to be a big piece of this work. Right now, I think everyone was excited to get to work, but once we really get down to kind of prioritizing and understanding how to collaborate with funding and governance and all of that, it's going to get trickier. And so Summer and I have a lot of experience needing to manage various relationships and stakeholders and coming, again, to a shared vision and a collective path forward. And then finally, collaboration and communication. We held a large meeting today. It was important for us to be here in person and to meet everybody and to be able to kick off this effort collaboratively. We have set up a landing page, so a website that's going to have all the updated information of when we're holding partner meetings, notes, recordings, places where people can ask questions. We're holding monthly meetings with anyone who's interested in attending to put back kind of here's what we're hearing, here's what we're learning, get feedback throughout the entire process, and really make it as collaborative as possible so that that ending strategic plan is really owned by the community and you feel that that is your plan that you are then moving forward and implementing. And I think that's it. Oh, there's one more slide. So when we say strategic plan, hopefully you can tell from all that we've been saying, we're not only going to kind of do the traditional goals, strategies, objectives, tactics, but also talk about resources, what funding is needed and how, who's going to be doing what, who are the responsible parties, what is the leadership around this, potential risks and how to mitigate them. So when we say strategic plan, it's really inclusive of all of those pieces we've kind of been mentioning here.
Questions, comments? Patty?
I just have to say your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion is amazing, but truly appreciated.
Oh, well, I will tell you, in that room, I was blown away by the energy, passion, and engagement
Just
of
wait.
those partners. Oh gosh, yeah, right. This was the easy part. But truly, even for people to show up, right, in mid-December to this kickoff meeting was pretty incredible. So yes, we're feeding off of your energy as well.
Could I ask just, I was trying to think, okay, what component of this and where do the mandates from the state fit in if we're looking at state mandates plus or locally generated priorities? And are we going to be able to distinguish between them? I was trying to think, well, is there a place where one or the other fits in, and how do you manage that?
In terms of
What if the
mandates.
priorities locally don't match the mandates from the state, for instance? And
I think there will be lots of discussion
will we have a
around that,
picture
you
of
know.
that, like
I mean,
just so we
yeah.
understand what's
Exactly.
expected and what the aspirations are, and
I think it's also, so just one example, right? You may have heard of BOSOs, Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organizations, that are going to be rolling out soon. Those are regional entities that are charged by the state for building up regional provider networks, right? The state is charged with a lot of things. This isn't exactly what you were asking about in terms of mandates, but I think from our perspective, it's what a lot of it looks good on paper, right? We're going to have care coordination. We're going to build up these wonderful networks. We're doing system of care for kids and youth, right? Lots of things are happening. And I think part of our goal too is to be realistic about what is realistic to see in the next year or the next 5 years in terms of their impact on Pitkin County, and how can you adjust accordingly. So that's a little different than I think what you were saying, but it is kind of this constant puzzle, right, of what's happening at different levels and how do these things fit together in a way that makes sense.
And if I can just add to that, I mean, we're having regular calls with the Behavioral Health Administration, with Healthcare Policy and Financing, Department of Human Services, to understand kind of what they're working on, what their timeline is for implementation, what the impact is going to be at the local level, and also looking at legislation in the next 2025 session to understand how that might impact some of this work too. So more than anything, we want to make sure that you all are aware of those different changes, and then we can have some discussions around how does that impact maybe or change some of the priorities that we're focused on here.
great, thank you for that. Other comments, questions? Okay, great.
We have one more slide,
Great,
if that's
yeah, go
okay.
ahead.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to spend a minute talking about the intersection of homelessness and behavioral health. Since SHG Advisors is overseeing both of these projects, we had been awarded the housing work, and then I think within like 2 or 3 days, the RFP for behavioral health came out from Pitkin County, and it was one of those things of, how could we not do this? I mean, how could we not try to get it? And one of the reasons why is because we feel like there's a couple of different things where a couple of opportunities to streamline. One, there's a lot of partners who are engaged in both pieces of work. So even today in the partner meeting, as people were talking, I was like, oh, I've talked to you virtually. I've talked to you virtually. Like, there's a lot of overlap. And so we can help kind of ensure that there's consistent communication between the different projects and with the partners as well, so that they're not getting asked the same questions over and over. So the housing work started sooner, so we've interviewed, as I said, a number of different partners. Yumiko has access to all those interview notes, so she can go through them too and get a sense of some of those conversations as well. So there's some opportunities, I think, to align and streamline. I think there's also going to be potential opportunities for cost savings across both projects because we're able to align and streamline some of the work. So that's what we're looking for. But I did want to also point out, because a lot of people, or some people have asked, like, well, aren't you doing the same thing? And what I would share is that the projects are very different and very distinct and different deliverables. And the homeless population is one slice of people who might need some behavioral health support, but there's much larger community that needs behavioral health. So we really want to make sure that we're looking, within the behavioral health structure, much more broadly across all the entire community and different populations, as opposed to the housing, which is really just focused on those who are homeless or unhoused. And we know from research that there's about a third of people who are unhoused who are experiencing a serious mental illness. So there's a lot of misconceptions that are out there around people who are unhoused, and some of the work that we're going to do is around kind of myth busting some of that as well. But I wanted to just kind of highlight some of that work as well.
I was going to suggest, I was looking at that, the 1/3 number, and I was thinking you could drill down on that and unpack, because it seems like perhaps the most visible unhoused people might have a higher tendency of mental health issues. The ones that you see are living on the street, in the bus shelter, or in the, you see the typical homeless person who's in a situation that's really hard to help them out of. And they're much more visible, because if we're talking about people who are couch surfing or living in their cars, they may not be visible. So I think it makes sense that only a third of them might have mental health issues, but I think the third are much more visible publicly. And that's my, I'm gonna call it a slightly educated, perspective on that, having some experience with that.
And I just want to clarify that serious mental illness. When I was working in homelessness at the state, right, it's very clear that anyone, if you're couch surfing or if you're living in your car, the likelihood that you will develop, if you haven't already, some mental health needs
is higher.
It is very high, right? So serious mental illness is different than kind of having more general, mental health issues or substance use issues.
Right, yeah. I think it's worth drilling down on.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure,
thank
for
you.
sure.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Thank you. Really nice to
Can't
meet
wait
you.
to see more. Steve?
So just to look at some of the maybe misconceptions about homelessness, we had a homeless alcoholic guy live on our couch. He slept on our couch during COVID for one whole winter. So that was, a good experience for us to learn about his life. But there are a lot of people there. They're in a warm shelter somewhere, but it's not their house. They're on a couch, or, they're not in a real stable situation. Another friend, his living in his car was a Tesla. He put his money into buying a Tesla. He didn't put any money into housing. He was homeless, but that's where he lived, and he would go to the Snowmass Rec Center to take showers and to get warm in the hot tub, and that kind of thing was the way he survived the winters. Winter after winter, he did this many, many, many years.
I think I just saw him at the golf course.
Yeah, someone brought up a really good point at the meeting today, that it can also look very different in a place like Pitkin County, right? Where sometimes we use federal poverty lines as metrics, but when you consider cost of living, housing costs, everything in a place like Pitkin County, right? People who are considered, right, not meeting those poverty standards could still very well run into a lot of hardship. So it can look a lot of different ways, for sure.
Anything else? Other questions, comments? We're right on
I look
schedule.
forward to the engagement and the report out.
Yeah, I look forward to the
I
outcomes.
don't know, do we have other stuff on here?
No, we'll just have to close the.
I do want to ask
Kelly,
Lindsay a
yeah, go ahead.
question. I think, I guess I'm wondering if there is a way to inform the city of the details of these efforts. Since our last engagement with them was, we want more info from you all. And we said, well, we're going to be getting all that info from you all, or from the community. I guess I wonder if there's a way for us to keep them on track as we're developing this.
Talk a little bit about how you've already engaged the city, or?
Well, maybe I'll start off just big picture. We were looking at our next joint meeting, inviting Summer to come and present this information, and I think Summer has some information about engagement that's already happened beyond that.
Great.
We did Yes, we did include several of the city partners in our interviews so far, which have been really helpful and insightful. So that has definitely started, and we'll continue that. As I said, I mean, we really want to make sure that not only are we communicating about this work, but that we're also providing some education along the way as well. And so that is part of this too.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, what do we need to close this out? Do you need a vote? Or we
Steve
just,
needs to motion to adjourn.
Steve needs to make a motion, thank you. Regardless of what we need,
you have
Steve's gonna do
anything else?
that.
Nope, that was it. That was the thing, and we were
Good to see
right
you.
on time.
Nice to
today,
meet
too.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
So if I could add
Yeah.
one more thing while Lindsay's here. I've been serving
Turn
on
your
the-
mic on.
I've been serving on the opioid settlement committee as the county as the commissioner representative. We've been very well represented from Pickens County on that. Some of the other counties have hardly had any representation, but that somebody, I mean, I hopefully one of the commissioners will want to take that up. But we have good representation from your department, and I appreciate that. But just to give you a heads up that I won't be attending any of those meetings going forward from now on. And so I hope that another commissioner will, go once in a while for, representing the commissioners. So some of the other counties, the commissioners participate a lot, and a couple of the counties, the commissioners have never been there. So that just, it's kind of a mixed bag in our region on that.
Yeah, that's going to be a big part, I think, of the work that SHG is also going to be doing in kind of bringing all of this information together. Because when we talk about behavioral health, we're talking about substance use as well. So that's one of those regional efforts that we're part of that, those discussions. And public health has been very involved in leading some of that's strategic planning that they're doing as well. So those efforts will probably fold in to some of the stuff that we're doing. But thank you for your service, Steve. That really has been pretty phenomenal.
Well, the board in Steve's absence could appoint him to any one of these. So we could just send him. Well, thank you. All right. So were you going to make a motion?
So I'll make a motion to adjourn the Board of Social Services
I'll second.
meeting.
Further discussion? I don't see any hands up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
all
coming
so
in. That was
much.
interesting.
Yeah.
Appreciate all that. That was a lot of information.
Yeah.
A lot more to come.
Big
I
I
have a
look
feeling.
forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you. Yeah. Happy holidays.
Oh, thank you. I'll let you know. Thanks very much. Hi, Charlotte. Again, great party. Best holiday party, I think,
That was
ever.
fun. And thanks for inviting all those kids. They livened it up and lowered the average age dramatically. It was great.
Great venue for kids, that's
The
for
average
sure.
age of the party was like 17 or something.
Yeah.
12.
I think they had fun.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm here to talk to you about next year's committee appointments. The document on and Francie, I'm sorry that I didn't send this revision to you, but I think we talked about this yesterday. The revised document on at your seats just had one red line that I had not made, which was John Ely. I guess I just couldn't do that. So you guys can discuss this today, and then we'll bring it back on January 7th for a final review, and then we'll have a resolution on the 8th of January.
Okay, great, thanks. So the regular rotation for chair would be Kelly and Steve, but Steve won't be here, so I'm very comfortable putting Jeffrey in as vice chair, and we could talk about that first.
Can I, may I?
Please, go
I
ahead.
had promised myself, and was holding others to holding me to my promise, to not do vice chair, but I'm willing to consider being vice chair next year, giving Jeffrey that 1 year to sit at the table and move forward. And since I'm available so often here, to be a backup support system for Kelly. But it's really up to the board. If the board's comfortable, because I'm comfortable with Jeffrey stepping in, but I just thought it might be nice to wean him in a little slower. But
Right, I think if he hadn't had so many years with P and Z, I would be.
it's
be
very
concerned
different,
about
because
it.
I sat on P and Z for
Yeah.
for 4 or 5 years, and he could handle it, if anybody can handle it, but I was just gonna offer that up, and whatever the board decides, I'm fine with.
Thanks, Patty. Comments, questions? Should we get through this and then go down our list? Steve?
Well, I remember when George Newman jumped right in, and he was very early in the rotation. He became the chair, but he was totally fine with that and totally capable of doing that. There's such a steep learning curve for learning what goes on in the commissioner meetings that I would leave it up to Jeffrey's discretion and yours on that. But I think it was my 3rd year when I came on that I was finally the chair. It wasn't the vice chair the very first year, certainly. I was just one of the commissioners learning the ropes at that point. So
Let me go around the room and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Comments, questions?
Oh, I mean,
Kelly
I'd
or
love
Francie?
to, I'm happy to chair. I've had conversations with Sean about this, just sort of how it would work best for me to try to structure our agenda meetings, I think, to be able to make it all work. And I don't think that that's a problem at this point. So I would look to Jeffrey for his input on whether he wants to serve as vice chair. I think I was vice chair when I came in, if I remember correctly. And I'll just say I thought it was really valuable to sit in on the agenda meetings and to get the background context on the issues that were coming forward. So that's just that was
Great.
my experience of it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add
Okay.
on to that really quick, because
Yeah.
John and I had talked about that same point. There's nothing that says that the vice chair has to attend the agenda. I mean, Jeffrey could always do that just for that learning curve transition over this next year. So that's a thought.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd love to hear what
So
you
now that
think
we're
about
deciding
your
your life.
role.
I'm looking at Francie and Steve already said something. Francie, do you have any comments or questions,
I
concerns?
don't, thank you.
None. Okay, Jeffrey, anything you'd like to say? This is a chance to, to campaign for this esteemed vice chairmanship, or run away or which or something in between. What would you anything want to say, if anything?
Comfortable accepting the role.
Okay.
Period. I mean, I think, I'm ready to step up and would like to be part of agenda setting and sort of get that take on board and board direction. So to me, it's part of, it would be a fun part of onboarding.
Great.
Welcome
Okay.
part of onboarding.
So now, what do we need to vote on this? What do we?
No.
That's in
She explained the
January.
process.
I didn't. I wasn't. Sorry, I wasn't. in the
So,
loop on
Greg,
that.
what we are looking for, we have edited this as staff. We may or may not have gotten it right. And so what we're looking for is for board input as to what you want represented in a final resolution where
Right.
the appointments would be made in a regular meeting.
Thank you for that, John. Brought me back into reality. Okay, should we move on? Further conversation? I'm comfortable
Francie, have
with the
any?
arrangement as we have
That's
it.
fine. Just then,
You're
just
still
gonna-
involved. We know that.
Well, I will promise I will try not to run meetings from my seat over here, Greg.
Okay.
I promise not to let you.
Well, then you have to run the meeting.
Okay, moving down the list, we have a lot to get through. I'm happy to let it play out the way it's been laid out for us. If somebody has a red flag or a question about anything, please bring it up.
Yes.
But for the sake of keeping things moving, Kelly, go ahead.
Well, I do think we need to talk through Steve's alternate and primary appointments, because I know I am not interested in taking over all of his primary appointments that I'm an alternate for. So,
There are several.
That would be,
you know, and I'm sure others may feel the same way. I'm not the only one.
So
who
it's
is.
CCI, are you thinking CCI
Yeah.
to start here, or
Yeah,
you
I
want to
mean,
go
we
back up
have-
to APSHA
No, I'm fine.
with APSHA?
Yeah. And if you want to just walk through each one, we can.
Sure,
just,
let's do.
If you want to confirm that.
Okay, APSHA is, Francie, are you okay with APSHA? Staying on APSHA?
Yes.
Okay. ACRA, Patty. Patty has carried the load on that one, and I assume that won't
yeah,
change.
it's been gotten pretty busy, but yeah.
Right,
good.
and I'm there as the alternate, but I haven't been. I felt a little uncomfortable being part of it when my wife was a contractor to them, but she isn't any longer and hasn't been for over a year, so I feel more comfortable being there at times. Colorado Association of Ski Towns, Francie and Patty, is that still, we like that?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, can I just make a comment real quick about alternate positions
Please.
in general? From past history, and I don't know if it's up to each individual commissioner, but alternate usually can attend all the meetings, but it's not necessary that both be there because technically one gets to vote. But it's nice if I'm the alternate for something, somebody lets me know when they can't attend the meeting, or if I can't attend a meeting, I let the alternate know, like Steve was great stepping in for Northwest Cog. So I think we need to remember that as we move forward. So it doesn't mean you have to go to every single meeting you're an alternate for, but it means if the regular appointed person is going to be absent, it's nice to fill the alternate in, and then that's why we have an alternate.
Thank
So
you.
that's just a
Yeah.
general statement.
Thanks, Patty. Okay, let's go on to CCI, the big block here. When I first joined the board, the serious conversation I think we were all having is whether we were even going to remain in CCI.
Right, and we only had 2 members of the BoCC that attended meetings. This past couple of years, we've had 3.
We've had
so-
3.
Yeah,
Right. So
Because there's
Three
9
members.
committees and we've divvied them up.
yeah, that's what we did with 2 in the past, before that, but it's fine if you want 3 to go, but it's just,
For a long
It's
time.
a
it
lot of
was-
meetings to go to for 2 people.
Yeah, it was Rachel and me who were
Right,
for
right.
a long
You
time.
first did
and
it.
We both would be there in person for the whole thing. We would go in person. Now a lot of the commissioners just attend virtually because that's
yeah, they were
that's a
doing that
good
when you were
option.
there, yeah.
Save a lot of miles that way.
Got it.
Well, I came in during COVID, so all of the meetings
They
were
were all
online.
that way.
I'm so grateful all of the meetings are now online. Though I really enjoyed our 12-hour drives through the blizzard, Steve, and our many long chats that we had during that time, including getting stuck on the highway when there was a fire and other things.
Mailmen, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Those
I
were
will
some
say
long,
about
scary
yeah.
rides.
Greg, in terms of what you were saying, that we had talked about not being part of CCI anymore. For the most part, I think, you know, Steve and Kelly, you've been more involved with actually setting the priorities for the year, but for the most part, it's pretty thankless because we lose most votes. And so when I go, if Kathy's not there, for instance, or a couple of other people, it can be really discouraging when I mean, I get a little recognition because I have a history in agriculture from a lot of the guys, but it is, as Kelly said, when halfway through the year, a couple of years ago, she didn't want to go anymore because she didn't like the behavior of the way that guy talked to you, and it can be really hard. I'm just saying it can be pretty thankless. We don't make a lot of progress. it is great that we got, real estate transfer tax looked at least. That was a huge thing. So I mean, I think you guys have made some progress, but it is tough. CCI is tough. You know, the municipalities in Colorado are pretty blue, but the counties are red for the most part.
I mean, I agree with Francie. I don't feel that I personally bring the best like advocacy for Pitkin County to CCI because of how I'm received there, not necessarily because of how I show up. And so that's just strategy on our part. I mean, I think that, you know, the committees I'm assigned to by you all or appointed to by you all are probably the best committees that I bring credibility to as a representative of Pitkin County. You know, Health and Human Services tends to be a friendlier group. You know, I'm on the state tax task force, and so I bring some credibility there. Justice and Public Safety is fairly neutral. But excuse me. Yeah, I guess that's if we can continue to divide these up over 3 people, I would personally prefer that as opposed to taking on more of them. I did speak with Lindsay recently about the human services stuff, and she is our proxy. She is interested in she and I collaborating more regularly on legislative matters. And so I think, you know, we at least have a plan on being more effective in that committee.
And I would agree with you, Kelly. I think I serve on the ones that most suit my ability to represent Pitkin as well.
Mm-hmm.
The public lands, agriculture, and natural resources is sort of, I think I can handle, or I have a little bit more credibility there than some of the other ones.
So Jeffrey, I think that leaves you.
Kelly, are there any that you would want to drop off on CCI? Or
No,
change your.
No, I'm okay to keep those. I think being on the Justice and Public Safety makes sense since I'm on the CJCC for our board. It just helps to understand those broader conversations in context of what we're trying to do at the jail.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I guess I would ask John, is there an opportunity for us to designate Levi as a proxy to vote on things in the event that we can't have
so in the past, you've designated me. That was before we had Levi, and Levi has been in attendance more frequently at CCI, and so yes, you can appoint Levi or any staff member as a proxy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that might be something for us to consider.
And
officially, you're listed as a proxy for anything, though, right, John?
Yeah, so we listed Lindsay as a proxy for Health and Human Services, and then I was a proxy on all other committees. I think I've only had to do that once in my 14 years here, though.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeffrey, is any of this interesting to you?
I'm coming into the.
We can tell you more about what that all requires and
we don't have to decide right now.
Yeah.
I'm not even comfortable deciding right now because I think I could take some of these on, but I'm not sure one it's suited to me or I'm suited to it entirely for various reasons.
Yeah.
But I certainly invite you to explore any of them if you were.
Yeah, I mean, I think many of you have heard this from me over the past couple of days that coming into this sort of baseball card trading, if that's what we're doing, you know, my focus or interest would be transportation, water. Those are probably the 2 big ones that really stand out, and probably land use around, you know, U.S. Forest Service, BLM, et cetera. So.
Well, if you wanted to be my alternate on a couple of those, that would be great, because I'm losing Steve, and on days where I can't go, it's really nice to have somebody who's familiar with what the bills are about and stuff.
No, and I apologize. In 7 years, I think I've missed 2 P&Z meetings. So.
Well, and
I'm a pretty good proxy.
For you to just think over the structure of how the participation with the CCI committees works. Do you want me to give you a little quick lay of the land?
Please.
Okay.
For my benefit also.
Okay. You know, the legislative session runs from January through the middle of May, as you know. And so once a month, the CCI steering committees convene over a Thursday and Friday, which is generally the last Thursday and Friday of the month. And in those steering committees, they have a chair and a vice chair who run through an agenda of bills, and CCI votes on positions of the bills. The committees happen in the same order, generally every 2-day session, and sometimes we get presentations on topics relevant to that committee from state experts or things like that. There is a great degree of collaboration among counties that we collaborate with and share our general point of view on trying to align on positions. You know, what is your county's position? What is your county's position? You know, trying to figure out if we have votes to support or block bills, things like that. And a lot of times the goal is to block bills that we think are devastating. Occasionally we have bills that we can advance forward collectively. It's probably like a 70-30 split in that way. We tend to like communicate with the 3 of us in terms of like, okay, your committee's starting, I'm gonna drop off. Can you text me when my committee comes back on? And we just, you know, the 3 of us don't attend the full day, 2 days usually, unless we go down in person for some reason. But I think structurally that's how we've sort of managed.
My 3
these.
are always on Friday.
Yeah, your 3 are always on Friday. Mine are split between Thursday and Friday.
So,
you know, there's sometimes there's work over the summer. There's regional meetings that happen, I think, once in the summer. There's 2 conferences a year that you can attend or not attend. And then we do some work a little bit in the fall about setting the agenda for the following year. But it's, you know, it's far less. And you'll get a lot of emails. They do a call every Friday just as an update. If there's a bill specific to Picken County or they've identified Picken County as, you know, they may do more outreach to testify and things like that. But that's generally how it goes. It's some work, it's not a ton of work, it's definitely more work January through May.
Great.
When I came on, I had no idea what I was doing when I started going to CCI meetings. I didn't really know what they were. There was a CCI training that I did. It was online, of course, but I wasn't an alternate, and it was challenging to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, and especially since I didn't know any of the other commissioners, and we didn't have any public sessions, so I didn't get to meet any of our more aligned commissioners. So it'll be easier for you now that it was during COVID, but I think starting as an alternate in several is not a bad idea, because you could sit in some if you want, and then if you're just horribly bored, you wouldn't have to stay.
Jeffrey, go
so
ahead.
I'm comfortable accepting all of Steve's red lines in CCI as drafted. If as per Francie's recommendation, you want to drop me from primary to alternate, and the alternate.
No, I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying it would be easier.
I spent the last couple of years on the American Planning Association Legislative Committee, so I'm used to sitting through and gearing up for session, as well as drafting position papers that inform the legislative body, because the APA would draft position papers consistent with their ethics and their views, and then lobbyists in Denver that would work on behalf of the American Planning Association and those with AICP designations. So this sounds similar in vein. And so if it's the easiest in terms of moving this forward, this conversation, I would accept all of Steve's red lines as drafted.
Are you talking about CCI? Are you talking about?
Talking about DCI before we flip the page to the backside. I was not
Saying,
trying
wow,
to be
this is
that
great.
consumptive. Yeah.
I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
I can explore that with you, and I'm ready and willing to step in on some, like I could come in behind Kelly on justice and public safety. I could take on, it depends on if Kelly wants to remain alternate on tourism and
Nope.
resorts.
Go for it.
So, or Jeffrey can, but we can discuss that.
An alternate carries the vote, so they're not ex officio.
They carry the vote if the primary isn't there,
So it's
right?
not ex officio.
So, okay, so we can discuss that, we can horse trade over that sort of stuff. We flip the page, transportation and telecommunications, same deal, or if
So,
you're.
yeah, I mean, clearly, I think transportation's a pressing
Yeah, that's a good
valley-wide issue.
Why don't we give it a shot like this, and then as we get into it, you can decide if you want to jettison some of what Steve was doing, or we can alter it, and I'm totally open to it. Does that sound
Now
right?
there'll be 4 of you appointed to CCI.
Well,
Not yet.
Not yet, but yeah, it sounds like Jeffrey's stepping in, but I don't wanna dump it all on you if you're not up for it. If we can get to CCAT, it was Kelly and Steve. I haven't been involved in CCAT at all, really, other than monitoring some of their calls at times when something came up that interested me. I could certainly step up for that. CC4CAs, I actually originally was doing that before I was chair. I could step back in on CC4CA if that would, if everyone's amenable to that.
I'd love that. I mean,
Okay, and then you're
I've
still there.
always felt like
yeah.
CC4CA is, they do it right.
Yeah, they're great.
They're a committee that doesn't require a lot of
They're a
engagement.
great organization.
They're-
Now, what,
they're doing the right
CCAT,
thing.
regarding CCAT, maybe Jeffrey and I can have a discussion about
Yeah.
that.
And I plan to, and I'm happy
You're gonna be
to
there
stay
anyway,
in that
right.
role, and if there's, if you want to be alternates, that's great, but you
Right,
can probably go without it
Right.
too.
sounds good. Moving down, CORE is basically, has changed its bylaws and its
So you
governance.
just skipped a whole bunch.
And we can, well, oh, you want to go to, the round table is still you and Kelly, right? Or do you?
Yeah,
wanna
I haven't
continue?
been able to make roundtable meetings. There at times where, for some reason, I've been unable to go to them, but I'm happy to stay as an alternate, Kelly, if you want to stay on as the main.
Yeah, that's great. I generally go to them, and the
Yeah.
portions that I miss, usually Lisa Tasker is also listening in on, and so there's rarely a vote that happens there, so there's not a lot to miss.
And
But they're interesting. I would invite you to listen.
again, before we move too far down, I would love to take on some water responsibilities, even if partial.
Okay.
Okay, well, why don't you monitor that one? We'll leave it as is, and then if it might make sense to put you in as alternate then, or,
As the roundtable?
yeah, if you don't want to.
I'm happy to, if you want to do the roundtable, I'm happy to give that up.
Is that okay, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Got it.
Great.
Okay, Colorado River District, we have Francie there. Do we need an alternate for that?
Well, there isn't anybody else who votes, and I'm certainly not going to miss any meetings.
Right, okay, we'll leave that alone for now then.
I don't
I
think we
didn't
do.
think their bylaws allowed for that, right?
Have an alternate step in? Oh, okay.
And I have a question. Did we ever formally appoint Francie? We did, okay, just want to make sure.
Yes, you did.
Uh,
All the paperwork's been filed and everything.
Okay.
So CORE no longer has elected officials on its board. So as of January, I'll be off the CORE board, and they won't be looking for another
So we
commissioner.
can scratch that
So
one?
we can scratch CORE.
That's too bad.
Northwest COG, Patty and Steve, I could,
I've talked to Jeffrey, and I'm going to
you want to do that, Jeffrey?
I would love to. Yeah,
Okay,
I've attended
great.
some.
take him to the first meeting in January and introduce him.
Excellent.
We'll figure that out.
I audited NWU.
Northwest Colorado Council of Governments, Northwest COG.
I audited
He's
a few of their
renamed
meetings
it.
in '24. So thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
I would enjoy joining.
And I will be running, hopefully Alyssa Sheikh will be chairing again, and I will be hopefully vice chairing both the Economic Development District and the COG Executive Board.
Great, thank you. As for COG Water QQ, I'm the vice chair of QQ next year, so I'll stick around there. Kelly,
That's a
if you
good
want to
group.
stick around or jettison, you'll stay.
Yeah, or if Jeffrey is interested in QQ.
Um,
It's been hard for me to get to some of those, so.
I just had one question. You could say table it, but should there be something else on the board's docket in lieu of CORE? So in other words, is there something else at the state level that would make sense? And you could show.
We have CC4CA, we
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
Conversation, yeah, with climate.
We just
CC4CA.
joined CAS, the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, which actually deals a lot with energy kind of things. That's one of the issues they deal with, so
Charlotte, I'm not on the
that
other
kind of
one.
covers some of the bases.
Thank you.
Okay.
If
we're
you're
gonna-
interested in, are you interested in climate stuff? Is that what the?
The question was, did we lose something from an expertise standpoint in terms of influence?
Well, we're still gonna have a liaison with CORE. It'll be at a staff level. CORE communicates monthly, at least, with Michael and Kara. And I think that will continue.
I'm happy to jump in on water quality, quantity.
Great, yeah, you can always come hang out.
And I
in
would
the
just
quarterly
note,
meetings.
not to add to your work, but just your interest, CC4CA, are you involved with them? Do you know what they do? They're like
You'd
the
like them.
main climate player, and they're a great group. So just flag it for you.
Yeah, and if you want that one, you can have it. I'm happy to step back in, but I'm also happy to hand it to you. But I can monitor it. I'm still on their list for if they need somebody to testify. They know they can call me.
Yeah, and that,
Greg, I'd like to recommend that you stay there because you've already been there and you're pretty familiar with how they operate. And you're also very up to date on environmental technological advances. So I would push for you to stay there.
Okay,
I don't know how other
I'm
people
actually, it'd be actually mean coming back because I haven't even gone to a
Put
meeting.
you in
I
as-
know, because
this
you've been
is
chair of it.
CC4CA
That's
one now?
CC4CA. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll step back in on that.
and then on that, if you can get the meeting changed so it doesn't overlap with our
Right.
BoCC meetings, that would be great.
It's always conflicting with something, but
always is a
we'll work on that. I want to keep
That or
us
have the
moving.
board let you not attend the BoCC meeting once in a while for that.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes they do get stacked up. Board of Health might be one of the conflicts, but let's just leave it alone for now and see where it
I
is.
can always step into that, Greg, if you need be.
Got it. I like the Board of Health.
I
Somehow it
follow
feels
it,
like
I
a good
just,
one.
there's no sense
Yeah.
in.
I'm happy to stay with RAFTA. I'm currently the chair.
I love RAFTA.
And Francie
you
loves
know,
RAFTA too,
It's
so-
persistence with you anytime. I knew
So
you didn't want to when
let's
you were
look-
going to be chair, but
Let's leave it alone for now, and then we can always revisit all of these as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we have a revisiting on a work session, and then we have to formally appoint by a resolution, right?
I think so, yeah. Regional Transportation Coordinating Council.
Steve, is that
so
even
I've never had
existing
anything to
It
do
does,
with that.
it exists more now than it did. Let me explain both this and Vintage together, because they're both committees of Northwest COG. So the Vintage one formerly was the Alpine Area Agency on Aging, and the Regional Transportation Coordinating Council was like a subset of Vintage, originally just dealt with transportation of Medicaid patients and disabled veterans to medical appointments. And now the RTCC, actually, we expanded the role, and it's coordinating with the TPR, transportation, is that what it's called?
Transportation Planning Region.
Intermountain TPR, kind of coordinating with that same effort. So I was appointed to both of those boards as an elected official, because both of them had it in their bylaws. They had to have an elected official on the board. So that's the slot I filled on both Vintage and the RTCC. Now we have new bylaws for the RTCC, and it's a lot looser organization. It's not like filling all these slots with people representing different things, but it's kind of like anybody interested in the transportation on the regional basis and filling in the gaps between the different transportation authorities in the 6-county region, and coordinating with Mustang to fill in some of those gaps.
So neither of those are required to have a Pickens County Commissioner appointed?
No, they're not.
And I haven't really heard a lot about the TPR since Brian hasn't communicated with me. much, which I'm gonna have to change at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot going on, and he doesn't really let me know when the meetings are.
So
I need to follow up with that.
actually, on the Vintage Board, there are 2 members of the Senior Council are on that board.
We don't need a commissioner.
Debbie Overender and Maggie Girardi are both on that.
So you could stay on both of those if you still wanted to.
As a member of the general public, because we can't appoint
Yeah,
him to the
I'd be
senior.
as a member of the general public. But for right now, I'm not gonna be on either one of them.
Got it,
So
okay.
you don't have to appoint anybody to either one of those, but it's an opportunity to participate in the aging issues and transportation issues in the Northwest Cog region.
I'll follow up with Brad Pettit on the TPR to see if it's a combination, since I'm hoping to stand with him on the TPR, so.
Got it. So I'm gonna suggest we don't fill these because I'm not certain it's necessary yet. If the need arises, we can come back to it.
Yeah, I'll
Is
talk
that
to Brian in
fair?
the interim.
Okay.
That's okay.
Rudai Water and Power, we've got Kelly and Francie on this. I've been going to RWAPA meetings, and I think I'm the vice chair, or maybe I'm the chair.
And I'm so glad, because I haven't been
'Cause
going.
I think
You're not
I
appointed
think I
to
might
it.
And I was
actually
like,
be
are
the
you
chair
going?
of
I think we were
RWAPA.
like hungover from
And I've been
last
going to the meetings.
How can you be going to meetings and be vice chair if you're not even appointed to it?
You know, it's funny. This is an old list. Maybe we never corrected it because I just thought, wait a minute, I think I'm actually.
Every
No, I think we
decision you
should
made
do
in the
I always
past
thought you
year
were
on
on
that
that
change our
board
practice.
It's all
is-
unemployed.
has to be eliminated.
Kelly is
When he
the-
became chair, he said, I was the alternate, will you take over? I said, sure. and
I had
then
no
never did.
idea I was the alternate for RWAPA.
I actually enjoy RWAPA, and I think I've been there forever.
I
I've
would
been
love
going
to give
ever
up
since.
RWAPA, because for
Okay.
some reason
I
it's
think I've been
impossible
going
for me
anyway.
to get to those Thursday nights.
So,
I'm glad we
Jeff,
solved
do you
this
want to
little
be
problem.
you want to be the appointment and let Jeffrey be your backup? Since he wants
Jeffrey, do you
water
want to
involvement?
You want to come?
And
be-
if it's starting to be too much, I'll take QQ back.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. So it's Greg and Jeff on Rudai Water and Power. Okay, we're on a board together, Jeffrey.
You're on QQ too.
That's true. Okay, now we are as well. Rural Resort Region Workforce Investment. I think Patty suggested I get on this board 8 years
we can
ago.
DC it. It doesn't really even exist anymore.
I don't think I've
What
been
is
to a
it?
single meeting. So,
We used to be a big government statewide requirement. We had meetings, and the Garfield County Commissioners on it would beat me up at every meeting about housing and traffic, which had nothing to do with workforce. Well, kind of, but not the way he was beating me
so
up.
do you want to keep this, or do you want
We
to
can
scratch
DC it.
DC means.
Discontinue.
Thank you. I was thinking DC.
Exit out.
Okay, so that one's gone. Okay, other appointments not required by resolution. BLM, Club 20, TPR, Senior Council Liaison. Looking at Club 20 and Senior Council, is anybody interested in
So
either of those?
I'm already on Club 20.
Is on Club
Oh,
20.
okay,
Francie and I
Francie's
were the two, so I am the voting member. I
So
just have a
Francie, you become
personal
voting member.
membership going forward. and then
I've been a
Francie's-
voting member for a while.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Francie's
Good,
the
we get 2 votes, that's
county
even better.
representative.
Senior Council,
I have a question about that. We don't appoint a member of the BoCC. When I was the liaison to Senior Council and when Community Health used to be part of the loop, I would be at one of their general meetings, like their big meeting at the beginning of the year, their budget, or they would call me when they needed me to attend a meeting, because we don't generally have a board member appointed to one of the committees we appoint to.
Well-
Like, we don't have somebody who sits on,
I was just ex officio. I was never a voting member on the senior council. I would just attend the
okay,
meetings.
so that's not a mandate for this board unless somebody wants to have lunch.
got it,
And
okay.
it sounds like
I
it's a
think it
pretty
was
good deal these days.
requested to
They
be
really
added,
appreciated having
just to
a commissioner there,
recognize.
but it's
Yeah.
not essential.
If it comes back around and they ask again, we can think about it then.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to require a resolution. Same with, we've got Forest Service, Water
I think
Liaison.
I would like to have the CPW added to this, because I meet with CPW at least once every 2 weeks, and we have a lot of interaction about wolves and stuff, so I don't know why it's never been on this list. It's actually pretty important to our county, so maybe USFS/CPW.
So we've added these liaison. They're not necessarily appointments to. So this used to be a list of committees that the county would be asked to make official appointments to. More recently, I think as more concern grew around federal lands and such, the board, even though there's not a committee per se for CPW, that board involvement is requested on, or Forest Service, the board has chosen to have somebody liaison with those entities. And so I think that's really, this is a little bit of a new structure in a way for us, this liaison role. And I think, Francie, that's kind of what you're talking about, right? Is a liaison kind of role?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm assuming, Francie, you would like to be that liaison?
I would.
But I think there might be a conflict since your son now sits on the CPW board. He's a commissioner, right?
He is
I
a
just want to keep it.
I don't know why that would be a conflict, but I mean, it has nothing to do with.
Just wanted to bring it up in case it did come back.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have anything to do with me, but it's not financial or anything.
Yeah, interesting question. I don't have an answer or a follow-up for that. The rest of them, opioid settlement.
So are we putting it on?
So,
or not? It would be separate. It wouldn't be under Forest Service or BLM because those are federal.
Yeah. So
Its own baby.
On the
just separate.
Yeah. So the conflict issue usually goes along an axis of, is there a legal conflict, which would amount to usually a financial
I
conflict.
understand that. What's perceived by the public. You have a mother and son.
And that's the second part I was going to, which is then there's that public trust, which isn't necessarily a legal conflict. It is a perception-based, if we would have issues that may be perceived as us needing to take an advocacy role, for example, a CPW, would that be I think that's what you're raising, which isn't
make sure
legal.
we are above board and is transparent.
I've been going to CPW meetings recently and talking with them. I'm happy to stay on that as another contact. So we can put my name on that if we're adding CPW to the list. How's that?
So if we do CPW, we have me and Greg, that if there seems to be a conflict about something, then Greg could.
So you'll be the main and Greg will be an alternate?
Well, that works for me. I mean, I really meet with them a lot.
Got it. That's fine with me. And that way I'm part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, including yesterday for 2 hours.
Opioid Settlement Governance Committee, is that still a thing?
It is still a thing, and there is quite a bit of money involved in it. It's like, having to approve the budget every year. I think it's appropriate to have an elected official representing the county on that. There are subcommittees also, and I served on a subcommittee, but in terms of the financial part of it, the board meeting, the whole board doesn't meet as frequently, but Kelly Lyons is, serving for the Human Services Department on a lot of the things, and I think it would be good to have a commissioner, one commissioner do that. The way this came about was, it was the same kind of thing like the criminal justice thing that you ended up on, Kelly. It's like, here's this opportunity, they want to we should have a commissioner doing it who's available and wants to do it. So you ended up on that one. I ended up on the opioid settlement, agreeing to, cover that. That's how I ended up in that position. Not that I knew anything about it, but I learned a lot about it once I was on the committee.
So
Is it required? It's not required.
It's not required, but it's probably a good idea, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Isn't
So
it-
Kelly
Jeffrey, is that
Lyons
interesting
is
to you? Or
kind of
should I do it?
representing
I'm happy
Pickens
to-
County.
I don't know how often it happens, but Steve, I'll replace you on that. How's that? if that's okay with everyone.
But Kelly Lyon's already representing Picken County?
Well, she is actually the voting member on when there's a meeting, just because it's part of her job to actually cover that. And so she can be at meetings when I couldn't be there, was the reason she ended up being the main Picken County representative.
So I'll step in for the time being regarding West Elk Loop Scenic Byway. Francie, are you still okay with that?
They don't do a thing. They've had one
Good.
event
Oh,
in
that's
Fort
fine.
Wayne.
Good. We'll keep
I would almost X that out. I don't know. I get
I
these
just don't
emails
even
from
know
John
if they
Hoffman that seem pointless.
Would you prefer
me.
to exit off, Francie?
We had it on there when Dorothea was
If they
here.
need a name on it, I'm happy to be on it, but honestly, it doesn't require any work, at least yet.
So why don't we scratch it off until it comes back around? But let's get rid of it now rather
Peppa
than later.
usually does that.
Kelly.
I just have a cleanup question. I wonder, for Club 20 and the Intermountain TPR, I thought they required some appointment. And I just wonder if we need to move them up into the upper.
Yeah, you're right about Club 20. It is a very sort of a formal appointment process.
Yeah.
I thought Club 20 was you went to the meetings of the library and got voted in.
Yeah, it's a different process. I don't know if it's a board appointment per se.
It's not. You get
Yeah.
appointed at the meeting. You get voted in by whoever
So,
shows up at the meeting.
at the meeting, Francie and I were the only two. There was nobody there from the city of Aspen this time, which Rachel was doing that. Oh, they have, we can have 3 board members from Pitkin County. They don't have to be from a government. It can be just a citizen or a business person
Should we
or.
find out more about
That
how
can,
that
that can
works?
stay there then.
Do
I
you
just
need
wanted
anything
that.
else, Charlotte?
What about the
Does it
And the
seem like you've
TPR,
got
you're
most of
right,
them?
you have to have somebody who sits from the region.
I think that's
Brian usually goes, he's been taking
Good, I
Linda
keep- I
DeBreeze
wanna
with
move
him,
us
and he has
on.
not been communicating with me, but I need to.
Steve, aren't you I think you were still talking. Aren't you staying on as the personal person on Club 20?
Well, except I won't be representing Pitkin County.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you will as a member of the public.
As a member of the public, yeah, I would be. And then I am the voting member because Rachel no longer is doing that.
Right.
She always was the voting member, and if she wasn't there, then I could vote in her place.
So we'd both be voting.
I don't think you can have two, let's,
We only get one vote.
can we find out more about it before we make a decision? Because I'm
Sure.
questioning what the process is, how the appointments are made. 2 votes, 3 votes, who gets to vote. I think we need clarification.
Well, the
on that.
county, Pitkin County gets, Pitkin County
As a whole.
entirety, the bigger Pitkin County only gets one, each county gets 1 vote.
Oh, I see.
And you can, I think you can actually split your vote if you had 3 people wanted to vote
Okay,
different
let's-
ways.
I want to keep
You
us
can actually
moving.
split the vote, but
So can
nobody
we
ever
bring
did
back
that.
more
but-
information?
I think we can get more information on that. Meanwhile, I think Charlotte has enough information to
Yeah.
flesh this all out and bring it back to us.
So check with Brian about the TPR, but it should be moved up.
Kelly,
Okay.
And I'll talk to you
I would
too.
just request a spelling correction of my name under the CJCC. While I am occasionally Curty.
On which one? I'm sorry.
The bottom of the second page.
oh, right, you go to typo
Oh,
there. An
yes.
extra T.
Thank you.
We knew that.
And that's.
Okay,
that's-
Should we
that's
take
that.
a vote on that?
No, but the justice, that's our committee within Picken County, right?
That's correct, yeah.
It's
That's
not
when you
like Club
created.
20 that's the region.
Okay.
It's just our little.
I want to move us along here. In the interest of time, we've kind of blown right through the last couple agenda items. Do we need to have regular board updates after that long conversation about all the various boards? Is there anything necessary? We could just skip this.
It's up
What are
to
you talking
guys.
about?
I have one thing.
Kelly, sorry,
He's
Francie.
skipping over future agendas and going right to board.
I was going
Oh.
to skip over board membership reports.
What about future agendas?
We need
If we would skip all of
Oh,
them and
never
get
mind, I'm
back
not
to
supposed to
track.
be running the meeting, am I?
When we get to,
We're going to do future agendas. I think we need that.
so can I
but-
just do my one board?
Okay, yeah, if you want to do your board report, go ahead.
Just two quick board reports. So APSHA, we'll talk about some stuff later, and then I also wanted to let y'all know that we did RFP'd for a new hearing officer and had 3 interviews for hearing officers. Mick is he has been our hearing officer, and he has reapplied, and we've re-interviewed. And then we have a gentleman, Tom Downey, who is based out of Denver, has a ton of experience. And then I'm forgetting the last guy's name, who is also an attorney.
It was also Tom.
Oh, Tom, okay. Who's working out of Denver but is living in Basalt and still like splitting his time. And he started the Colorado Center for Law and Poverty and has worked on affordable housing issues.
Wow.
So just
How many do
so you know,
choose?
we'll
You can take
usually choose one and a backup. Mick has been our hearing officer as well, so we're all familiar with his work. It's a bit of a lightning rod with APSHA stuff sometimes. Though I will say, so I don't know if we'll retain him or not.
And this
We
is the
haven't made
APSHA
this
board
decision.
makes that call.
Yes.
It's not, doesn't come to us.
No. And then the Colorado River Basin, just a quick update.
Before you go on, Kelly,
Oh,
can I
sorry.
just add that the second Tom that you mentioned, who lives in Basalt, he has been the backup. But
No,
he's
the
never
Tom
been-
that lives in Denver has been the backup.
Oh, I thought it was the other one, but they've never been called.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
The Colorado River Basin, they get an allocation every year for grant dollars, and it doesn't always get spent. And frankly, I think it's pretty easy money for water projects. So I just sort of flag it. And I just got an email from Anna Wexler-Weiss, who is our QQ contact, one of our QQ contacts, just giving me a heads up about sort of the next deadlines. They do 2 grant cycles in a year. I think one's in February, one's in September. So it's just something to keep in mind if you have ideas for things or you're working with folks who, might need money for water projects. I can help figure that out.
How do we find that application?
It's all on the Round Table Basin's website.
Colorado River Basin Roundtable.
And sometimes that money is like just from the basin pot, and sometimes it's used as a match to then go to CWCB monies for more expensive projects and things.
Can Healthy Rivers play any role in
Yeah.
that, or should it be?
They can, and I think we've partnered on grants for
They
like
know- they know
the
about it.
Carbondale restoration project that happened down
Okay, got it.
It's good to think about in terms of riprap, Kelly.
there.
Okay, can we move on to open discussion?
Oh, I thought we were doing
Agendas?
future
Agenda.
We have to do future agendas first, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself, trying to catch up.
There's nothing on future agendas right now.
Yeah, so I've just got a couple things going up beyond some of our future agendas, but January 3rd, the site visit, we're actually going to meet at Public Works. We're anticipating the buttermilk parking lots may be full at that point. Charlotte will email details to everyone for that. Just a reminder to wear warm clothing, and if you have them, stabilizers and poles would be useful because you're going to be going up a steep part in the Nordic Trail.
Great, thanks for that.
Eagle County joint meeting, where we weren't able to get a date. We're going to look at probably meeting in February or April, most likely April. We're going to try and get on either side of their March ski day. So we're still working on that. I think I had given you a February date or a January date previously. And then on January 7th, right now, we have a really short meeting. I think might be to some of the point, but we do have the board appointments that we would like to get finalized for adoption on January 8th. So would like, even if we only have a couple items on there, I'd like to keep
What
that
board
meeting on. It'll just be short.
These, the ones we just talked about, are not other boards like P&Z or?
No, I'm sorry. The ones we just talked about to
Charlotte
finalize
already.
those, yeah. And that's all I have on future agendas.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have anything else they want to?
I am looking into the possibility of setting something up with our newly elected Congressman, Jeff Hurd. So I'm not sure where he is right now. I've been talking with Perry Will, who's got a good relationship, to see, because I would like to talk to Congressman-elect, first of all, for us to meet him, and then see what position we might be able to get from him as far as public lands. I think opening that door sooner than later is probably a good idea.
Yeah, and we may want to.
I'll talk, I just want to let the board
Yeah,
know.
if we could stay
I don't know when it
coordinated.
might work out or if, but I just have been trying to, Perry and I have been playing phone tag.
So, and we're reaching out through COZN also to get a meeting on the airport. So, yeah, let's.
So I met Jeff Hurd at 2 different Club 20 meetings and talked to him for a long time. So I think he has a relationship with Picken County through me, but I think that really leaves the door wide open. He'd be realizing that he knows that I'm term limited and won't be there, but I think it'd be easy. He's very, very personable. And
the other thing too is we need to see about the NACO legislative meeting the first part of March. I don't have the details of it yet, but when Charlotte and I do get more info, I'll bring it back to the board. I'm definitely going. I don't know. We need to meet with Jessica and find out what needs to happen this time, so we're a little bit better prepared.
Yeah.
So I'll let the board know when that meeting is and if anybody, what the agenda might be.
Great, thank
When
you.
is NACO?
March.
March.
First part of March.
Yeah, can't remember the.
It's like
exact
the
dates.
first week of March.
Okay, any other open discussion items?
well, I've got one that I haven't really been working much on it, but the name change for Nicholson Creek to spell it correctly. And I would love to have the Board of Commissioners just write a letter saying they would support that name change. I was thinking, well, I could just come, but maybe I can't. The way Rice says that I can't do any business with the commissioners for a period of time after. So I can't come in and like January or February and present a thing to you. That would
is
not be
correct.
appropriate or legal, probably.
Yeah, the charter has a prohibition on commissioners and I believe senior staff from coming back for a period of time after.
2 years.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I couldn't
It's
remember
2
the
years, but that
exact.
doesn't mean you can't go to your.
Coming back for what?
To petition the board for.
So what I
for
was
anything
thinking,
is to prevent lobbying.
John, is maybe January 7th, I could do a presentation to you at the work session on the 7th, just with what material I have, and then you could decide whether, I mean, it's a simple thing. I think when you see the evidence, you would agree the name should be changed because it was just misspelled.
And then the board could certainly give direction. I don't know the process actually for changing the name and who gets to
State
change that name.
legislature.
We'll
There
have
is
to look at that.
there is a board of geographic names that you apply to. There's an online
Like
form.
changing the name of a mountain.
And it
Yeah,
was really
okay.
the counties changing the name of Mount Blue Sky that kind of made me think,
Oh, yeah.
well, this is possible to change a geographic name. There has to be a process. So then I found
to
out what
Randy.
the process was.
It seems like if you come in on the 7th, it's almost the same as coming in on a week later, in terms of lobbying the board. But you could
Well,
come
I would
in
still
in-
be a commissioner, though. I
Right.
would just be.
You could come in April, right?
No, I think
2
it's
years.
It's 2 years.
It's 2 years.
I think it's like, yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think it's a long.
Do you have a proxy?
No, he's got
Well,
a district
I could give all the material to
representative.
Jeffrey and he could bring
I
it
would
to me.
just offer that if Steve has enough information on the 7th and brings that in and this board gives direction to staff to work on it, at that time we can probably take it from there.
Okay, let's do that then.
And it's a simple
Okay,
matter.
thank
I
you.
think when you see the stuff, I think you'll all probably agree with me that.
And I would add, you'd probably get pretty strong caucus support as well, because I know.
I
you
already
present-
agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you already too. So we're good. Okay, so we'll see you on the 7th.
It's a fascinating history, actually.
But don't get into that. I want to keep us on schedule. Stop.
I'll tell you on the 7th.
Tell me on the 7th.
We're not behind schedule.
We're back on
anymore.
schedule because I've been kind of impatient, I think.
know.
Okay, but we have a guest here in open discussion, and we told Will that we would talk about this letter. The Eagle County Commissioners have signed this letter to Hickenlooper and Nagoose. I think I brought this to us about 3 months ago, and we looked it over, and we weren't sure what it was about, and we said, let's see what Eagle County does. Eagle County chewed on it and signed it, I think, yesterday or the day before, and Will reminded Patty and me that he wanted to bring it back to us. I'd love to have a quick discussion about this, and I'd like Patty to lead that.
Well, I had suggested that we'll come tomorrow at open discussion, because we usually don't have guests at work session discussion on Tuesdays, but the board has the letter in front of them. It's pretty clean, it's very basic, and I think we should sign on with 5 signature lines for all 5 of us and move it forward and CC it to Jeff Hurd and to Michael Bennett, as Eagle County has on their letter. Put it on county letterhead.
So they didn't CC Hurd, I'm not seeing.
On the back side, and when I have it's CC'd on to, oh, I got the one that's CC'd to,
Hey, Will, just may as well come up. You can join us. You're my invitee, so you're
I wondered
official.
why Greg was holding us to a time frame.
No, I didn't even remember it, and I looked up and there's Will. I thought, oh, I guess I should ask him to join us since he came all the way up here. You don't have to come 2 days in a row.
I was up here anyway, so.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's on this copy that,
Okay, so another copy went to the congressional reps. Is that what you're saying, or to Bennett and Hurd, or something
yeah,
like that?
CC'd to Michael Bennett and Jeff Hurd, and it's got the 3 signature lines for Eagle County, and I like the way it's presented.
Would you please just flesh this out for us? Help set the frame, because I remember we had that conversation. I just want to bring it back so we're all refreshed.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of this?
Yeah, I think the very big picture is, I think we're lucky to have, Senator Hickenlooper and Congressman Nagoose who are interested in protecting additional or adding additional protections to public lands in the Roaring Fork and Eagle River valleys and in those 2 counties. And certainly, Senator Bennett's been a leader on public lands, and in some ways this is maybe just like divvying up some of the work. There's only so much that any one office can do. So I see this, this joint letter from the 2 counties really as like a very early stage invite to say, yes, we value protected public lands. We'd welcome this continued conversation, a stakeholder process and outreach to think about what places might be worth protecting with congressional protections. Either, wilderness is certainly one option, but there's other types of protections, wildlife management areas, recreation management areas that we've seen in other Colorado legislation, including the CORE Act, which you all have supported. So it's just this very initial, hey, let's start this conversation, and having that kind of invitation and support for the idea from the counties, I think can go a long ways towards facilitating that.
Thank you. So I guess what we want to get is a thumbs up. Then Charlotte could include this letter on county letterhead with all of our signature lines. Is that what you were suggesting?
That's what
Greg?
I would like, but
Yeah,
let
and
Kelly
to
mind
all
it.
the representatives. Does
Yeah,
anyone
all
else have a comment or thought on this?
Thanks, Will.
Yeah, I talked to
Put
Michael
Jeffrey's
and
name on it, too?
Will about this. I talked to Michael and
No,
Will
not
about
yet.
this yesterday. I'm totally on board. I think it's a great idea. It's right in line with the kinds of stuff that we're trying to do.
Great, thanks, Francie.
There was only a question of, is there any other personalization from a Pitkin County standpoint in terms of properties or anything else that we wanted to address or add that are given pressing concerns?
I think we've been non-specific for a reason, but what do you think, Will? I just want to hear your thought.
I think there'd be that opportunity kind of down the road, and I think it's a great question of, is there, I would hope and welcome, ideas for specific places or ideas for things that could be included in the legislation, both because it's a joint letter and, it's still kind of early. I'd say wait on that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have more down the road, but this
Yeah,
is a good
this wouldn't be
primer.
the first
the
time.
beginning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, is that a thumbs up? I think I got Francie's already.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, we
Thank
have
you
a-
all. Really
a
appreciate
yes
it.
on this. Okay, we're moving
All right,
forward.
I
That
won't
was
come
an
back
easy one.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Now I've saved us 2 meetings.
All right.
Tomorrow off. Go skiing
Tomorrow
all
off,
day.
yeah.
On that letter to Jeff Hurd, he is not sworn in yet, but it could be Congressman-elect or
Right, yeah.
some way to address it to
When
him
do
in
they
that
get sworn
fashion.
in?
I mean, wouldn't it make sense to also write it to Bobert if it's before inauguration, before they're swearing in? I mean, she is still a Colorado congressperson and our congressperson. Just
Of
a
course, it could also
suggestion.
be ammunition for her to use as
Yeah.
a parting shot.
That's
if
what
she-
I think. I'm worried about that too.
Maybe just not tell her.
Yeah, I would send it to Jeff Hurd and not to Lauren Boebert
Well,
personally.
by the time we get it mailed,
They may be in by then.
they may be in office, so.
Okay, and if it's that late, then
It comes
Jeffrey's
up
going
in
on it too.
December. I think they get sworn in earlier than,
Okay, is that clear enough for
Visitors.
Charlotte has the direction for crafting that, or whoever is going to take care of that?
January 3rd.
that's
Okay.
when they get elected, they get sworn in?
Good.
Thanks.
Cheers, Will.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So
Okay.
we should add Congressman-elect.
Here we go.
Good point, Kelly.
Add Congressman-elect to the letter, smart. Thank you. Up
Got
next,
that,
we
John.
have a BOC discretionary fund discussion. And is Charlotte coming back for that, or did we get so far ahead because we were so far behind that we?
Yeah, and
She
I
doesn't know
don't know
what
if
to
I
do.
have the,
It's page 65, it's right at the very last page of the packet.
well, that's great if you have a computer in front of you.
So if you have all the pages of the packet,
I don't print out the whole
Okay.
packet.
Okay, I've got it wrong.
But we
here.
have 23,000, I think, about left.
It's just
Right.
north of 23,000, yes. I'm trying to pull up my info too.
So I had asked if we could have what we contributed to at 23, but we don't have that before us.
that's on page 65 also.
Yeah, we do. We have it.
Oh, see, I don't,
You can look on this if you want.
no, it's okay. I just would like us to consider giving some money, talking $2,500 maybe,
To who?
around there, to Colorado Wild Public Lands, because I think, again, we're gonna, maybe more, because we're gonna need their support and their investigative abilities and their attention to detail to preserving public lands that are already public lands and might be changing use, or it might be being totally taken out of public ownership.
There she comes. No problem, thank you. We were,
We already spent $50,000.
yeah,
Charlotte.
yeah.
We didn't
Is that
have
how
that
much you're
much.
giving me? There's
I
only
didn't
23
have
left.
time to print that out, so I will just take your direction on paper here.
Okay, Kelly.
Yes, I guess, Greg, let me ask you how you want to do this. Do we want to all throw our suggestions on the table and then debate what we think of them all, or?
I'd like to have all the suggestions out, because I'm not sure what everyone's gonna come up with, but I have Patty already suggested Colorado Wild Public Lands, maybe at about 2,500. I know
Oh,
the
something.
Redstone Historical Society is on the table. Kelly's got something.
I mean, I always advocate for Planned Parenthood because of, the situation where Colorado is receiving more people who are in need of reproductive health care. I would also advocate for Mountain Family Health. They have a $1.5 million gap. And due to the disenrollment of people who were on Medicare. So I really think that they could use any amount that we would be able to give them to continue providing care to the uninsured.
Didn't Basalt just give them a significant contribution, John? Did you follow that?
I did not follow that,
I
yeah.
want to say like 50. I don't know where I'm getting that, but.
Okay, Steve?
Well, I would like to contribute to the Keeling Curve Aspen Global Change Initiative, because the work they do is so important across the world in terms of action against climate change. And we gave them 1,000 last year. It was the last 1,000, the way it kind of looks on the thing. But I would give them at least 1,000 or 2,000 again this year.
What do they do?
They pick projects around the world, some in the United States, a lot in other countries, of nonprofit groups who are, and sometimes startup companies who are doing really innovative things in terms of climate sequestration, carbon mitigation, different things. They're really innovative projects that always win the prizes, and I think each nonprofit, I think they give them $50,000
Or more, they have
to like 12 different projects around the world every year. So, and the impact, the things that they are doing are really amazing. So Jackie Francis is the president of the Aspen Global Change Initiative.
Founder.
Just so you know,
Keeling
there's,
of the-
you know,
the
I don't see
climate
that as a
change.
conflict,
Yeah.
but
And
it's
they
dealing
do-
with climate change, which I think, that's why I would like to put Picken County money
They
there.
do a lot of education and advocacy and bringing different entities together to collaborate locally, nationally, and internationally.
Francie, were you going to bring up the Redstone historical?
Well, you know, they have two different things going on. I got a letter from,
Jeff?
Becca, who listed some things that they need help with in terms of the museum, in addition to the actual purchase of the building. She actually didn't mention the purchase of the building. Let me just open her text, but I mean her email. She mentioned getting support to, let's see, how would I say this? For us to help their organization write grant applications, would we be willing to help? I think Suzanne said she would apply for it if we would help. And here I'm finding it, so hang on one sec.
I think we already.
Okay, here it is. Can the community development or any, whatever we want, cover the cost of Suzanne Reed's time to work on getting the National Register application, which is necessary to acquire the State Historic Fund acquisition grant. The grant's for $250,000, and so that they would like to have financial help in Susanna writing those grants. And then, yeah, it's kind of confusing.
Did they want money to help them with any kind of
It's a
matching
computer,
funds?
and they need a computer and printer so that they can work with the Aspen Museum to catalog things. And then they have installing climate control mechanisms to regulate temperature and humidity for various items, such as Osgood's formal clothing. Storage drawers, files, closets, a simple audio visual system, handrails on the steps. The handrails on the steps are really important. Those steps were scary as hell. Anyway, I would recommend that we give them, I don't know, maybe $5,000 right now, something like that, and then wait to hear what they need in terms of purchasing the building. But I also would like to support Steve's recommendation in honor of Steve's last recommendation.
You know, I agree, Francie, we should do something to help them move forward. And I think we had already, in one of our previous discussions, talked about using some of our in-kind, in-house services like Susanna Reed Help with Grant, and at some point, looking at matching funds assistant to a certain amount. Yeah, and I'm not willing right now to put money into the building itself since they don't really own it. But,
they're going to come to us later in January.
Yeah. Well, I think that would be great information. So I'm willing to support that, and along with the two that Kelly brought up. and the Keeling Curve. So we've got that 23.
23 and change. I don't have it right in front of me. I'm
So
sorry.
however we can figure that out, I think we've got some great
Okay,
ideas
so,
in front of us. Thank you, Greg.
$613.39.
Okay, I want the 39 cents.
I see 3 supporters for giving $1,000 to the Keeling Curve Prize.
Okay.
So far, I see Redstone. We would be earmarked $5,000 for Redstone for these various things.
What are they going to use that for?
They talked about audio-visual equipment, safety.
I don't have a place for that yet.
Susanna.
Climate control materials and hiring Suzanne as a grant writer through ComDev. Is that what we
Maybe
heard?
we can do that in kind anyway.
Yeah, I think on the grant, I wouldn't conflate these dollars with either staff time or grant writing time.
Okay.
And just ask for flexibility, whether that's us using DC strategies or our staff to do that.
So where do they want to use that money? On a building they already own, on their costs and fees for something? I guess I'm confused.
Let me go back. It says, something, this program, working with the Aspen Museum mentor Lisa Hancock. There's a digital program called Past and Present for categorizing documents as well as donations. So they would need some computer and printer worthy of some amount of storage. That's one. Installing climate control mechanisms to regulate temperature and humidity, but I agree we shouldn't do that until they own the building. And then storage drawers, files, and closets. A simple audio-visual system to accommodate small meetings, and handrails. I mean, even right now, I think the handrails are important because even showing the building to people is sketchy as hell.
We shouldn't be installing.
I'd feel more comfortable if our library needed funding or the Historical Society needed funding in order to work with them, I'd give them a grant to pursue working with the library and the Historical Society, for instance, just to help lubricate that relationship and maybe help them if they're trying to merge files and historical documents. Like that to me is a grant I would like to support.
But
the other stuff though doesn't sound like it sounds too soon.
But I think the priority would be myself to get the historical designation so they can start applying for some grant money to preserve the building so they can preserve the records and the history because they don't have a place to put anything right now.
Yeah, assuming they don't have any place to put it yet. So this may be too soon. It sounds like.
Well, I would recommend that we do the computer that is worthy of their work.
But we don't have how much is a computer?
Well, I mean, we don't have to fund it exactly, but if we just come up with an amount of money and say, we'd like you to use this for this because you don't own the building yet, but this will help you get there, or something like that. That's what I would recommend. I know, it's a little bit weird right now.
$2,500, get them the equipment and help them apply for the historic designation?
Yeah, something like that.
I'd support that.
2,500 sounds.
They're probably going to hire Sarah Adams, right?
That's
not cheap.
25,000.
Okay, so we've got if we did 2,500 to Redstone Historic, Patty asked for Colorado Wild Public Lands. I could support that at 2,500. Steve asked for 1,000 for the Keeling Prize. I saw Kelly's request, which I would support all those. I was concerned about the veterans. It seems like there's all this concern. The doctor, a friend of mine who works with the veterans, just said they're terrified they're going to lose all their funding. Not that we can supplement, that we can replace that, but I do like the idea of helping support the Mountain Family Health and the Planned Parenthood, and I would put some money toward that if anyone else thinks that's a good idea.
I agree with what you're saying, Greg.
So so we have a significant. We've spent $6,000 of this 23,000 now.
How much?
So we've got another
for
15.
Planned Parenthood.
16.
17.
Thank you.
I've been calculating.
Okay, do we want to offer $10,000 to one of these?
I would like to offer $10,000 to Mountain Family Health, and then we did $5,000 to Planned Parenthood last year, and then there's a little left over.
Okay,
So 10,000 Mountain Family Health, 5 to Planned Parenthood. So now we're at $2,613.39.
There you go.
And who's counting? Maybe we could,
Now, you mentioned the veterans. Do you think giving money to the Western Slopes Veterans
Coalition?
Coalition?
What, could we earmark it for that and do a little research on that?
you know, I'm a little concerned about the fact that we funded the new veterans, whatever his title is, here in Pickens County. So,
Service Officer.
yeah, and we don't hear anything from him as a board.
He was at Veterans Day, and
I know,
he
but
was
he
very
didn't send us a
active there.
notification. They were having the event. They usually invite one of us to speak at the event. It was like Charlotte didn't know about a wreath until there's been a lack of communication and disassociation.
Now, he's a veteran service officer. He's not the coalition. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying yeah.
So I should have done a board report on this. I did go to a meeting when the state representatives from the Veterans Administration came, and then Adam was there also, and I was there. I think I went because John couldn't go, and it was just pretty much the state people explaining what they do and offering the statistics. Now, Pickens County is last in the terms of funding per veteran of all counties. We are the bottom line of every other county in the state. The veterans on the average get more benefits.
Well,
than
that's not
ours.
because the counties fund them more. That's because the federal government funds them
Well,
more.
it's yeah. Well, it's.
I don't think Eagle County.
It's Veterans Administration
Yeah.
money.
And it's probably because they look at our population and our dollar value, and they figure our veterans don't need the support, which happens
But
to
then
all
it
of our
might also
population.
be that, I think a lot of veterans, they say it's, if someone in Pickens goes to Garfield County, that Pickens County gets credit for that. Because a lot of veterans are in the habit of going to either Eagle County or Garfield County to get their services.
What do you
Just
say we
because-
offer at this point? Earmark $2,000 for the Veterans Coalition, and
that's
do
the
you
center. The center in Glenwood Springs is where they operate out of.
Would you like to look into that any further?
Have they asked for money?
I've just heard a plea, or not a plea, but a very concerned comment from somebody who works with them who just said they think they're going to lose significant amount of funding in the next administration.
John, do you know anything more about the Veterans
Well,
Coalition?
maybe we could look at it next year after we
Why-
know whether they really are.
Why don't we set it aside? We don't need to spend
Planned
everything.
Parenthood could use all the money we want to give them. So
That's
could
true.
Mountain Family Health.
Do you want to bump Planned Parenthood to 7,000 and just leave it at that for now?
I want to know what we're going to do with the $613.39.
Okay, we
Go out
can
to
just
dinner.
keep that. Let it,
Could
let
you
it
read
grow.
a summary, Greg?
It doesn't roll over.
We had Keeling Curve 1,000, Mountain Family
What
Health.
is that again?
Keeling Curve Prize, $1,000. Mountain Family
Oh, that's
Health.
the thing Steve was talking about?
Yes. Mountain Family Health, 10,000. Planned Parenthood, 5,000. Colorado Wild Public Lands, 2,500. Redstone Historical, 2,500.
We bumped Planned Parenthood to 7,000, didn't
And
we?
then we talked about bumping Planned Parenthood to 7,000. That would pretty much take us
Or
very
just
close.
give them the remainder, 76.
Can we, John, take the $613.39 and put it into the county's Veterans Fund to help fund events, et cetera, at Veterans Park?
So it would.
Is that possible?
Yes, the process would be it'd roll over into fund balance and you'd have to appropriate it.
Ooh, that sounds dreadful.
We could do it at our first quarter.
Sorry to sound so bureaucratic.
We can appropriate it anyway.
But yeah, I mean, the answer
I
is
would
yes.
like to,
We just have
because
to go through
that
process.
fund needs to have some replenishment at some point in time. And if we're going to do the broader, we're concerned about the broader issue with veterans, let's take that $613.39 and roll it into our fund that we keep in-house for events and issues at Veterans Park for Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
I would support that.
Okay.
I wanted that $613.39 to go.
Okay, to
So I think we're
veterans.
good. Good job, Greg.
All right.
Can I
does
just-
that make sense to you?
Can we just
ahead.
summarize this?
Yeah.
So Planned Parenthood is 7,000. Redstone Historical Society is 2,500. Mountain Family Health is 10,000. Keeling Curve is 1,000. And the Colorado
Wild Public Lands.
Wild Public Lands is
I can
2,500.
Get you their info.
Okay. And then the balance of that will go into the
We'll figure out how to
613. Okay.
roll it in.
So let me just check with you guys quickly. So I'm going to write back to Becca and copy Jeff on it and say that we have awarded you $2,500 to be spent on items and systems that will help you get to where you want to go, but nothing attached to the building at this point, something like that.
Well, I think the focus, we would really like to find a way to help them
Move it
pursue the
forward.
process of the historic designation.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Francie.
Okay, thanks, Francie. Charlotte, does that make sense? You've got it. Okay, then.
Thank you.
Now I need a motion.
No, you don't. It's
To
work
go into
session.
executive session.
Oh, yeah, I
Go
thought
into
I was gonna
exec
have, let's get out of here.
I don't need a motion to adjourn, but we thought about it. I think we should just do that as soon as possible. I did want to discuss at one point in exec a property interest issue with the buttermilk, West Buttermilk, and I talked to Rye about it, but we didn't put it on last week, we didn't put it on this week, and it's my bad that it didn't come forward. Can we add
About
that
the
to our
land use?
motion? Yeah,
I was going to suggest we do that the morning of the 7th.
the morning
Which
of the
I forgot to bring
7th
up
of.
during future agendas, after we do the site visit
Okay,
to
fine.
discuss.
I just
kinda
don't want to
legal-
forget it. Thank you. Okay, so we'll stay with the
Oh, good
program. I
idea.
need a motion for exec session for the topic of Picken County Housing Authority deed restriction, interpretation, and enforcement discussion with counsel for the purpose of receiving legal advice pursuant to CRS 2464024B. Airport website disclaimer discussion with counsel for the purpose of CRS pursuant to 2464024B. And county attorney contract negotiation personnel discussion pursuant to CRS 2464024F.
And that we're inviting Jeffrey
And we're
into,
inviting Jeffrey Woodruff to join us, and he has signed an NDA through the rest of the year as a private citizen, so he can join us in these exec sessions.
I so move.
Steve moved,
I'll second.
Patty seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're
So-
in
oh, I
at
thought you were in
3:55.